Прийшли окупанти до нас в Україну, форма новенька, воєнні машини, та трохи поплавився їх інвентар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російські танкісти сховались в кущі, щоб лаптем посьорбати довбані щі, та трохи у щах перегрівся навар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Приперли зі сходу до нас барани для восстановлення
великої страни.
Найкращий пастух баранячих отар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Хто води всяке озброєння різне, потужні ракети, машини залізні, у нас на всі доводи є коментар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Вони захопити хотіли нас зразу, а ми зачаїли на орків образу з російських бандитів, робить примар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Російська поліція справи заводить, там вбивцю рашистів ніяк не знаходить, хто винен, що в нашому полі глухар. Байрактар, Байрактар. Веде пропаганду кремлівський урод, слова пропаганди ковтає народ, тепер нове слово знає цар.
Байрактар.
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 Yes.
The Leaf Spring Army sends its regards.
Hello, everyone. I'm the Enforcer, and I'm accompanied by Enforcer Matt.
And good evening, folks. It's Enforcer Matt, and welcome back to day 1141 of the War News stream. And today we have very large news that Moscow's been attacked by Ukrainian drones and also maybe a UFO or something like that. We're really not sure, but something attacked Moscow, and we got it on camera. We also saw that the Yemeni Houthis destroyed yet another U.S. Reaper drone today, and also the China-U.S. trade war is escalating quite rapidly. But it's good to see you all once again.
And, of course, we're going to be covering the past 24 hours of news from around the world, as we have been able to hear that the Russian Federation has been pummeled by a significant Ukrainian drone strike, and I just started making myself smile because I said the word pummeled, and it sounded kind of like pounded. But beyond that, they were hit by a very large drone strike overnight, with a large amount of drones hitting the city of Moscow, and it appears that the Ukrainians pulled out the gizmo, as it was seen over the area of Naro for Minsk, right outside of the western area of Moscow, and we were not able to confirm whether the thing was shot down or not, but it was an incredibly interesting weapon, to say the least. Meanwhile, the Russian Federation has also seen that a Tu-22 M3 bomber was destroyed either at the Mozdok airfield or at the Engels air base, both of which came under attack on last night, and it appears that the Russian Federation also took significant damage at other major cities such as Taganrog, where more military and wartime production facilities were hit and a significant amount of damage was caused. Meanwhile, the armed forces of Ukraine have continued their offensives inside the Belgorod and Pokrovsk directions and have continued to push the Russian Federation back little by little in both directions, as the Russian Federation still struggles to make any ground whatsoever, even as the supposed Russian offensive inside of the northern area of Kharkiv and Sumy is supposedly in full swing, which we really have not seen the Russians make any ground at this point in the supposed offensive since it began around 24 hours ago. We have also been able to hear in other news that inside the Middle East, it appears that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is now starting to supply a large amount of weapons to the Iraqis, or more so not really the Iraqis, but the Iraqi terrorist forces inside of the country. And we've also been able to hear that the Houthis attempted to fire some missiles at Israel today. 2 of them failed, 1 landed inside of Yemen, and 1 also landed inside of Saudi Arabia. We also were able to hear that there is a significant trade war going on with the Chinese, as we have been able to hear that the President of the United States today has rescinded all tariffs on all foreign countries except for the People's Republic of China, which we can now see as a result of that. Just to quickly show y'all, just have to say we were right on this one. The stock market is already starting to correct itself once the tariffs were removed. That is what it's looking like currently, just to give you all an idea. We've also been able to hear that while all of the tariffs on other countries have been removed, the sanctions are still implemented on the Russian Federation, and the tariffs on China have now been raised to 125%, another 24% raise compared to what we were hearing about last. Actually, it's a 21% raise compared to the tariff that was seen yesterday. We have also been able to hear that the United States of America has openly stated that a war with Iran is a serious and high likelihood of possibility at this point, as we are now moving on into probably one of the most precarious moments in world foreign policy that's been seen so far, with wars almost on the brink of breaking out in all 3 areas: Europe, the Middle East, and the Western Pacific. But nevertheless, we have a huge amount of news tonight, and I do have to say that thankfully I am a lot better tonight. I'm still a little bit sick, but beyond that, I do sound a lot better, so for that reason, we will be able to push forward and get on through this news with the normal kind of bravado and elocution that we normally have here on the Enforcer channel. And so moving on from that and into the major news of the day, we were able to hear that the city of Moscow itself has been bombed quite significantly. It appears that the armed forces of Ukraine have been able to conduct a significant drone attack overnight throughout the entirety of the Russian Federation, hitting some vital targets, but most importantly, the most footage and activity that we saw out of that last night's air raid is the air raid that we saw inside of Moscow. Dozens of drones appear to have penetrated the Moscow air defense perimeter and started to make its way into the inner ring roads of the city of Moscow and towards the very beating heart of the major city, the largest one in the Russian Federation. Outside of Moscow and within its 3rd ring road perimeter, or actually it's more so the 4th ring road perimeter, in between the A113 and the A108 near Taganrog for Minsk, we start to see a very interesting sight. Something that we have called here on the channel the thingamajig, the thingamabob, the gizmo, the whatchamacallit, the thing, whatever you want to call it, the UFO. It was a thing that ended up flying over Novorominsk, and we have no idea what the thing was, but it was an incredibly interesting kind of a flying object. So, without further ado, no, thank you. Maybe later. Here's the UFO that the Ukrainians had flying into Moscow. We once again don't know what it is, but here's the clip. We can see the gizmo flying through the sky.
Damn.
The Russians are lighting the thing up.
The Russians are just firing everything they've got. It's like a World War II battle out here.
And I have no idea what that is.
The Russians are certainly panicking about it, though. They're going berserk. And of course, they're not hitting a thing. Like all that fire and not hitting a single target.
Man, all that shooting and nothing but misses. They say that you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. For the Russians, you miss 100% of the shots you take as well, so you're just missing altogether. We now see it just flying on around very casually. Some people may think, that kind of looks like a helicopter. But I don't think it's a helicopter, because usually the tips of the rotors on a helicopter are not illuminated, and we also don't really see any other navigation lights on that helicopter as well. So I don't know what it is. We are believing that it is a Ukrainian long-range drone of some variety. It's just an incredibly bizarre one at that.
It is kind of odd, though, that it's flying through such heavy like anti-aircraft fire like that, and it's really not reacting like a normal aircraft would. It's just kind of like circling around like it's just casually just sort of taking a stroll.
I gotta say, man, it's a little bit of an interesting thing. We also got to see the anti-air from another angle. Oh, let me turn that on up. Oh, whoa. We can hear a helicopter in this clip.
Я
And
щас
just
надо
chaos
тут
ensuing in the
обругаюсь, ё-моё, это
distance.
что за хуйня,
Yeah, you can see the
блядь?
air defense fire in the distance. We can't see what they're shooting at, and then that lady there just sounded like a porpoise at the end of the clip. Like, that was a little unexpected. I didn't
Thinking in
expect that.
hypersonics.
They were like, "Let me signal to my pod." Like, just like I don't know. Let's listen to that one more time.
Гайс, ё-моё, это что за хуйня, блядь?
What the hell was that?
Man, honestly, that doesn't even sound human.
That doesn't, dude. Honestly, man, Novominsk, dude, it's a wild place. I just have no clue what's going on out there. But apparently, we got humunculus, human porpoise hybrids living in Novominsk that not only speak Russian, but they also speak porpoise. So that's a little bit of news to me. I actually didn't know that going into the night. But we also got to see more video footage of the air defense at Novominsk.
Jeez.
We can see them just lighting that thing up. And there's the thing again.
Is that the sound off of the thing? I'm hearing like a slight engine sound.
I'm hearing something. I can't really tell if it's the sound of rotor blades from a helicopter, though. Sounds like it might possibly be.
Пиздец.
You know what, Matthew? It just hit me. That is definitely a helicopter right there. I'm looking at it right there. You can see the fuselage. I think that might be an Mi-17.
Why would they light the rotor blades up like that, though? Like, unless it's a Russian helicopter that's being misidentified by the Russian anti-aircraft fire, then why would they light up their own, like the Ukrainians? Let's say this is a Ukrainian helicopter. Why would they make it so visible to the enemy by lighting it up like a freaking like carnival ride?
One, this is certainly not a Ukrainian helicopter. No helicopter that the Ukrainians have right now has the range to make it to Moscow. This is a Russian helicopter, without a shadow of a doubt. The question I have is, why is it lit up this way? If those are navigation lights, those are probably some of the most bizarre-looking navigation lights that I've ever seen. So I don't know about that part, but that certainly is a helicopter, man. And it's a Russian one that's getting lit up by Russian ground fire. So that's
if that was the true answer to the story, that would be probably the most like comical, like comedy gold answer to this entire situation. It was literally some pitiful like Russian soldier that was doomed to failure because their own guys like unleashed hellfire on them.
Hold up. Wait a minute. Holy moly, Matthew, I got the answer. It is a Russian helicopter. Here's a picture of one at night. Oh my God, it's a helicopter. Oh my
I mean, maybe. The red light would match up, but also there's like one solid light in the middle that's just a normal color, and there's also no lights or LEDs on the rotors necessarily, not nearly as bright as the other one.
But from a distance, it'll probably look a little bit brighter because the light's diffusing over a larger area. Let me see if I can get a similar picture here of an Mi-17 at night. Here's another one.
Also, we have a closer up video of that, by the way, like a closer up shot of it, like of it flying through the air. That might give you a better clue.
Okay, is that on Twitter?
Yeah, it's attached to that one that you just showed from me just a minute ago from the Enforcer account.
Okay, got you. Let's take a gander at that. So okay, so let's take a look at this.
Бля, где она?
Well, it certainly sounds like a helicopter.
Got a lot of like exhaust or smoke coming off. I think it might have actually gotten hit.
Yeah, let's see. It kind of, the lens kind of cleared up right there. That let's compare that. It's most likely an Mi-17, if anything. So let's see if we can get a side view of this thing again. So there's a red strobe light up there at the front lower end of the fuselage, and there's also that white band that can be created on the rotors. And that's lining up a pretty good bit right there. I mean, you know, you got the little red navigation light at the front. Can't really see a lot of the tail section at all. It seems to be obscured in the darkness, but I'm very certain, Matthew, I'm very, very certain that this is a Russian helicopter, most likely of the emergency services, that just got lit up the whole time it was flying over Novominsk.
It's possible. I'm just having a hard time with because it sounds like a helicopter. Of course, it's smoking like it's been hit, so that would make sense that maybe it would be a helicopter that got hit in the fuselage. But at the same time, though, the only thing that's throwing me off is how this thing is lit up like a carnival ride. That's a little bit interesting. I've never really seen that, and I have seen videos of Russian helicopters flying around at night, and I haven't really seen one like that. So maybe it is an emergency services helicopter, and that's why it's lit up like that, because it's not supposed to be stealthy like a military helicopter, but I just don't know. It's just kind of a little bit strange, even at that.
Man, it's weird.
Certainly sounds like it though.
You know, I like how this guy filmed this helicopter like it was Bigfoot. He could never get the damn camera in frame, you know, to actually get this focused so that we could see what it was. Like, it was very hard to tell. I'm very certain, though, man, very high chances this is a Russian helicopter that got lit up. That's probably why we'll never hear any updates on this, man, because if it was a Russian helicopter, they're not going to say anything about it in Russia getting lit up and possibly shot down. But honestly, it doesn't even look like it got shot down. Let's see. There's the helicopter again, if we're calling that the helicopter. But moving on from that and on into the remainder of the clips that we have, we also were able to see, let me get this here, some falling debris. Now, oh, wait a minute, hang on. There was a server error. Oh, there we go. Now we got the falling debris. Let's take a look at the falling debris. I wonder if it's helicopter pieces or Ukrainian drone pieces. We're probably about to find out. So we have the tail of a rat. I'm just kidding. That's some sort of an electrical wire right there connected to a pager. Hamas wants to know your location.
A golden beaver. Oh, wow. And this right here, it looks like the beaver got a hold of it.
Whoa. I mean, they might be like master grillers, but whoa. Look at that fire. I mean,
look at that beaver.
Oh, here's the air defense fire again from another angle.
Oh, it's like this guy either hit something or something got hit near him.
Oh. Wait a minute, there it was.
Oh, there it went.
There it was. Yeah, there it went. 100% a helicopter, dude. 100%. I'm fairly certain of that.
Well, why would, if it was the Russians, and now I'm not ascribing too much logic to the Russian soldiers because they sort of lack that to a large degree, but why wouldn't they lower the helicopter down significantly to get below the air defense fire and maybe try to land the thing and in the hopes that maybe the fire would stop?
Bro. If they got lower, they're just giving those Russians a cleaner shot. Like, honestly, man, they're probably trying to climb up and away from the ground fire, probably, I would assume. Because if they get any closer, they're just making the shots for these guys a lot easier. And these guys are probably not going to let up. They're just going to keep shooting at it until they go down or until they kill the pilots. That's what I'm assuming.
Also, wouldn't they have, like, obviously have a radio in the helicopter, so wouldn't they be radioing back to their people to let them know, hey, you're shooting at a friendly helicopter flight, you need to stop? Like, where's the disconnect on communication there? Like, there's none, apparently.
There might not be any communication in between ground air defense and Army and emergency air activities that are happening in the area by helicopter. There may not be any direct line of communication in between the two, so the communication lines are more so horizontal through, or more so vertical through their organizations instead of more like a web where they can all talk to each other in a surrounding area. So they may have no way to actually speak at any quick amount of time to those ground air defense crews and let them know to stop firing. The chances of that are high.
Interesting. Also, someone said they're not shooting at the helicopter. The helicopter is assessing the damage on the ground. No, I really doubt that because they're firing so much air defense fire. There's no way that helicopter wouldn't get hit by at least something. There's too much fire going through the air. So, and at one point it looked like it was smoking, like when it flew away. So I think it did get hit. And of course, why would they be firing that recklessly around one of their own helicopters on purpose? They wouldn't do that.
Now let's all take a moment here to ask. Was that a smart statement or not? Yes, they were assessing the ground damage as every single air defense battery on the planet was firing up directly towards the helicopter. That doesn't make a lot of sense. One, if it was assessing the ground damage, the attack is over. Why would the air defense be on alert to shoot down anything above it? That makes no sense. So there obviously couldn't be any significant damage yet, or a damage assessment, because either the attack is still ongoing, or the attack is over, so these air defense units wouldn't be firing at them. Secondly, another thing about that doesn't make any sense is, if this is a damage assessment flight, why are we not really seeing any damage on the ground? We're not seeing any smoke in the surrounding distance, which we would be able to see. We're not seeing any damage, any fire damage on the ground that could be observed. Also, why would they send a helicopter up to do that when it's common practice for the fire brigades that are marshaled to those areas to be the ones to make the initial damage assessment? It just does not make any sense, like that kind of an idea. Also, if that was true, once again, The whole helicopter wouldn't be getting lit up like it's Christmas Eve. That just doesn't really make a lot of sense. But anyways, moving on from that, because that was the take of the month, like right there. I was like, man, I haven't heard much like that before. But beyond that, I do want to make sure that we do talk a little bit more about this strange craft, this mysterious thing that was flying in the skies around there, because a strange craft, a strange, unfamiliar craft, was seen flying into Moscow amidst heavy Russian air defense. And what was it? What was that thing at Novofominsk? Was it A, Ukrainian or Russian helicopter? Was it B, unsure? Was it C, it's just a new Ukrainian drone that's very large and sounds like a helicopter and kind of looks like one? Or is it D, it's really unidentifiable and strange, possibly alien, possibly probing? Matthew, what are people thinking about that, and what are you thinking about that as well?
All right. So some people believe that maybe it's the Wunderwaffe coming out with the Glock from Germany. Sorry, let me get myself together. But 43% said it's just new Ukrainian drones, while 26% said it's probably a Ukrainian or a Russian helicopter, and 16% said it's really unidentifiable and very strange. And there was a lot of rumors going around earlier today. And in fact, I couldn't identify what it was either at first. I was looking at it thinking, that's very weird looking. It looks a little bit odd, like it could be something foreign, not aliens, of course, but something foreign, maybe from a different power. But now looking at it a few more times and hearing the sound up close and really loud, I would say it probably is maybe a Russian helicopter. That's probably the most likely answer. And like the enforcer was saying, it would be very hard for a Ukrainian helicopter to get all the way from Ukraine all the way over to Moscow like that and have that kind of range. In fact, it'd be nearly impossible, according to what I know. So now, honestly, it's not the Glock. It's not the Wunderwaffe. It is just the Russians playing fools again, because they're probably shooting their own people down right out of the sky. But we really don't know what happened to it. It was just on fire, it looked like in one of the videos, but we never saw the end result. It could have crashed or it could have landed. There's no telling. But I would say generally I'm with the 28%. But Enforcer, what say you?
I'd have to say I'm with the 28%. It is without a doubt, in my opinion, a Russian helicopter. Without a shadow of a doubt, there was a clear fuselage. The lights look weird until you see that there is a light diffraction that happens off of the end of rotor blades in other pictures for Mi-17s, which makes it highly likely at that point that what we were seeing was the spinning of the rotor blades with that weird pulsating light fixture that was moving in a circle. The navigation lights line up, it sounds like a helicopter, and if it walks like a duck and it talks like a duck, it is a duck. So going off of that sort of a logic, it sounds like a helicopter, it largely looks like a helicopter in the middle of the night, therefore it must be a helicopter. I know that. I know for without a shadow of a doubt tonight that I'm correct on that, because I remember, Matthew, when people were sitting around when the whole drone craze was going on, man, and that guy was on top of Union Station looking out at all of the approaching planes flying into Reagan International Airport, and he went, "Oh my God, they're UFOs!" And then we like time matched his angle of like his view with all of the incoming planes and matched up their coordinates, and it was literally in the exact same spots on the film they said they were UFOs at. Like it's it's the same thing. It's the same thing with this. It's a helicopter. It's just hard for people to be able to identify things at night because you really can't see. So a lot of people start to let their minds go wild. But I promise you, there's no creepy things in the dark. The only things that are lurking in the dark are maybe Bill Cosby, maybe Dan Schneider. But don't worry, folks. They're far away and they cannot hurt anyone, at least for now. That might change in the future, though. But for now, they can't. Moving on from that, and on into Moskva, we also got to hear that the Russians are already starting to back off a little bit, or at least on the whole Iran defense thing. But you know what? We'll save that one for later. I feel like we need to wait a little bit before we get into the whole we're gonna bomb the Iranians thing. But we'll move on from that and move on into something else where we were able to see some explosions happening in Moskva. And here's one. Oh, weird flash. And that's the end of the clip right there, but still very nice to see And we love to see ourselves a nice little explosion in Moscow. Unfortunately, we weren't able to get exactly where that was or really get a good damage assessment on that for now, but hopefully we will be able to by tomorrow morning. Moving on from that and out of Moscow, the air attack did not stop there. We were able to hear that somewhere either at Engels Air Base or the Mozdok Air Base, a Tu-22M3 was destroyed right after landing. Apparently was destroyed by a Ukrainian drone attacking the airfield. We were able to get initial reports of this, and these reports do seem to be exorbitantly clear that the Tu-22M3 was destroyed in the attack, but we have not been able to get picture or video evidence from either Mozdok or Engels Air Base to be able to confirm the complete destruction of the aircraft. We are already going to be reporting it, however, because it seems that it is a inevitable certainty that it has been destroyed, but once again, we're still waiting for video and picture evidence, and once we get that, we will be putting that out most likely tomorrow to be able to prove to all of y'all that the aircraft was completely destroyed in the process of the attack. These aircraft cost about $100 million apiece. They're not incredibly cheap, and they are also used significantly by the Russian Federation to conduct air attacks against the state of Ukraine throughout the entirety of the war. So moving on from that, now the city of Saratov, and further on down towards Taganrog, we also were able to hear that there were explosions across a wide variety of areas inside of the Russian Federation. We were able to hear that there was explosions in Taganrog, the Rostov region, the Krasnodar territory, Engels, and the Saratov region. Pretty much the entirety of the Don region of the Russian Federation, which exists here within this southerly area, was targeted and hit by Ukrainian drones to a significant degree. And here's some of the clips showing some of those drone attacks as they were transpiring earlier in the day. Oh, do you hear that? That sounded like a lawnmower.
Sounds like Sebastian Vettel coming into a corner.
Oh. Do you see that ball of something that was... There was a creature that ran right there. Look at that. I don't know what those were.
Rats, man. It's big-ass rats.
Dude, that's those New York rats, man. Rats.
Man.
Weird the rats.
They came out of like a door in the ground or something, like right next to the house.
Dude, they opened up the door and the first one went, "Get out of here, man!" Like, and they both ran. Like, oh, you hear another one coming in. Oh, there it is. It's a Liudi, a classic.
That sounds like a supermoto motorcycle. Oh, look, a Lada.
Oh, look. That's a fairly modern Lada. I wonder what we're going to see in this clip. No, there's some headlights. Oh! An explosion.
Now there they have a whole lot of trouble.
Oh, and what's this one? It's a greenhouse, I believe, with nothing in it. That sounds like an explosion. We can confirm that. And, oh, there's a second one right there.
It's bumping in the greenhouse tonight.
Boom, 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 boom. Man, they were hitting this.
Gardner and his men were up there gardening, and they were getting pounded.
Gardner was up there on his little spade. He was getting pounded. Like, man.
Honestly.
Oh, man. Hot Dog Man was out there growing pot in his little pot, and he was getting pounded. That's a true story, by the way. But moving on from that and down on into the Mozdok airfield area, we did get to hear that Mozdok airfield was also hit as well. That was where this clip was from, just to locate that specific one, and it appears that this facility near to the Mozdok airfield may have possibly been hit. We're not entirely sure yet. Once again, we'll have to wait to get picture and video evidence of the actual damage at Mozdok, but that's also a likely candidate for where the Tu-22M3 was destroyed. It was either destroyed at Engels, which is the highly likely option, or the somewhat likely option of Mozdok airfield. Nevertheless, the attack over the Russian Federation last night was quite significant in size and its potency, and it does appear that the Russian Federation has taken significant damages and losses as a result of the attack. But moving on from that, though, one thing I can tell y'all is that significant damages have been curtailed, at least for now, and another metric in another place, and that place is The good old United States of America. The United States of America is one of the greatest countries on earth. Founded in 1776 by 13 colonies along the eastern seaboard of the modern day United States of America, this country leapt forward into this brave new world, creating a nation that is equal for all and a place of great opportunities. It has ended up becoming the largest military and economic power that the world has ever seen in history so far. And recently, there's been a little bit of an issue with the whole, economic prosperity thing. That the United States imposed tariffs on literally everybody, and the stock market went into an absolute panic. We've been talking about that quite extensively, really, since it ever began. And to show you all what we were dealing with just yesterday, so I'll show you the 5-day here, or more so the 1 month. Maybe that'll be better. The lowest it got to was 37,645 points on the stock market. That is compared to the peak that we ever saw in the stock market, which was 45,000 points approximately. It was about 200, well, really 120 points off from that. The stock market then rapidly dipped after tariffs were implemented on pretty much all foreign countries, which once again showed that a lot of people who were trading in the stock market didn't really have faith that that was a good idea and that was going to start destroying their ability to actually run business. Today, we were able to hear that the President of the United States, who, by the way, I just want to make it a little bit clear here, swore that the tariffs would never be lifted every single one of the tariffs today, except for the ones on China. So we have been able to hear that all of the tariffs have been paused for 90 days on all countries except for China. And also, by the way, while we're also not lifting China's tariffs, we also raised them another 21% up to 125%. So now we are on up there to 125% tariffs on the People's Republic of China. Really interesting kind of a thing right there. You don't really hear about these kinds of things happening often, but the stock market has corrected itself a fairly okay bit. I mean, it's still not close to where it was. Usually most of the time it was easily, even at its lowest in 2024, it was up around 42,000 points or so, approximately. I mean, it wasn't that bad off really. But now we are back.
Isn't it crazy though? Like just over the last few days, we've seen the biggest drop in the Dow, I believe, since World War II or something like that. And then we've just seen the biggest rise in the Dow as well since World War II, literally just a couple of days later. It's kind of insane, actually. It shows you how big this tariff war is really playing on things. Some people are blaming it on other factors, but no, the tariff war is the main thing. And it's just crazy to see such a fluctuation that close together like that. Like you look at that chart, you don't see a dive and an uptick like that anywhere else on the chart right here. Well, maybe back in 2022, mid 22, you do actually right there. What was that? What was? Well, actually, we can't mention what that was. I think that might be political.
Let's see. I can't really think of what that would have been in 2022. I can't really tell actually. Let's see. Oh yeah, that was the Wuhan whirlybird thing. It went from
Oh, that was back in 2020.
Yeah, but it went all the way down to 20,000 from 30,000. So it literally dropped a third of its value over a couple of days. But still, it is a very interesting time. It's a very interesting time. Good to see, though, that most of the tariffs were lifted. And I see a lot of people saying that there's still a 10% tariff on most countries. And that is true, but for the large part, those tariffs are easily dealable. They're not going to be causing any significant rise in prices for consumer goods or really for anyone to import into the country. Those tariffs are not insane enough to completely destroy the economy and make it impossible to conduct foreign trade. They're a comeuppance, yes, but they're not going to be completely debilitating. However, the tariffs on China just went up another 21%. We also have been able to hear that in response to that, the Chinese have now dumped about $50 billion worth of treasury bonds amid the rising tensions. And according to the information that we have, China has recently sold $50 billion in treasury bonds, contributing to an increase in bond yields. This action follows heightened tensions due to President Trump's announcement of potential increased tariffs on Chinese imports if China does not lift its retaliatory tariffs. This is something that appears to be a sign that China is not willing to bend the knee just yet. As Xi Jinping calls it, they're not bending the knee. So a lot of people have been talking about this whole economic activity, the back and forth in between China and America. And today the United States did raise its tariffs on China to 125% amid escalating trade tensions. And a lot of people are wondering, how is this going to end? And then some people are saying that China will back down eventually. Some others are saying that China will start an invasion of Taiwan soon. Others are saying that the U.S. will back down soon. And some are saying that they're unsure and undecided. But Matthew, what are people thinking about this? And what are you thinking about it as well?
All right. So pretty much people are all over the board on this question right here when it comes to the answers. So it looks like 31% said China will back down eventually, while 28% said China will probably start the Taiwan invasion as a result, and 27% said the U.S. will back down soon. And so far, we've been waiting to see which side is going to jump out of the way first in this really brand new game of trade chicken. And it looks like so far China's not backing down. In fact, they're going in deeper, and we're waiting on their response to this current rise by the United States to a brand new 125% tariff. So, and one thing that I guess you could say is good is, generally speaking, the U.S. has backed off their extreme tariffs on pretty much every country on the planet except for China. So they've honed in on China this time, which is a little bit different, because at first they were picking a fight with everybody, and now it seems they're picking a fight specifically with China, which is our one of our biggest trading partners, one of them, not the biggest, but one. So I would say that probably what's going to happen here, honestly, if I had to take a stab at it, I'm actually with the 29%. I think China's probably going to want to start that Taiwan invasion. And of course, we did just mention they're dumping U.S. Treasury bonds. And what that will do is that's going to spike the interest rates here in the United States. And also, it's going to weaken the U.S. dollar as well. So it's going to devalue a bit if China decides to keep dumping these Treasury bonds like they've been doing. So China is doing that intentionally, of course. And I believe it was last night or the night before, we saw the yields on the 10-year Treasury bond spike, which does indicate that China probably unloaded a ton of Treasury bonds. And they're doing that intentionally, of course. So I think they're going to start that invasion. That's what I'm sort of going for right now. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say I believe that they're probably going to start moving towards an invasion of the island of Taiwan as well. I think that's highly likely at this point. That would be the direction they move, because if there really is no way for them to economically salvage the situation, which the president's making it fairly clear that there isn't, then they really have no reason to act in good graces of the United States, and they can start to push forward with greater territorial ambitions like taking the island of Taiwan. Because at that point, all of Europe, which is really the only people that China would be economically concerned about, don't even consider Taiwan a real country and even respect its sovereignty of the Republic of China's government on the island. So with that in mind, if China invades Taiwan, the only people they're really pissing off at that point is the United States. And they're already on bad terms with the United States, so what's really changing in their mind at that point? So I think that that's a highly likely action right there that the Chinese might take in response to this whole thing. But I've seen people making all kinds of ideas and statements. This is always a very interesting and heated and lively discussion. And I just remembered what someone said, and I was a little bit perturbed by this statement. Someone said 10% tariffs. Like I'm not saying I'm against 10% tariffs or for it, but one thing I am against is just wildly high tariffs. But someone said 10% tariffs are reasonable because that's like a usage fee for like ports and airports. I don't think that person knows this, but the ports already get usage fees. Like, you have to have portage rights and pay portage fees to dock your ship at a port. Like, you already are paying that port to use it. And usually that money doesn't go to the federal government, that goes to the city that runs the port. So the cities of New York and Newark, which have their ports run by the New York Newark Port Authority, largely get their revenues inside of the city. It's a big money generating thing for them. But 10% tariffs and disguising it as a usage fee to pay for maintaining and keeping up the ports and airports doesn't really make a lot of sense, because that's already included in the price it takes to, dock a ship in a port. So that wouldn't really make too much sense. Also, another thing that I'm seeing, let's see. I'm trying to see. There was a couple of other interesting comments. The chat's just moving so fast, it's hard to keep up with them. Another thing that I was seeing some people saying is, let's see. Yeah, dang it. Oh, man. See, U.S. is going to lose the economic war with China. Now, I doubt that. Actually, I think this is going to be a pretty good run to the finish. Oh, by the way, yeah, I was going to throw this in, because this is something that a lot of people don't know. If you're living in a coastal city, and it seems like it's kind of poor, and you're like, why is it so poor? I'm on the coast. This doesn't make any sense. Like, for example, Portland. which Portland actually isn't that bad. Like it's bad, but it's not that bad. But the downtown's dead. Like if you go downtown, it's absolutely dead. And people will be like, why? Why is that the case? Why is Portland dead? Well, back in the day, Portland was a port. Hence the name Portland. It was a significant one. It actually was the biggest one in the Northwest. It was bigger than Seattle. Seattle was a nameless, faceless city. It was a bigger one, but it wasn't really as important as Portland as far as significance. And Tacoma wasn't really either. But Portland was the port, and as the 1950s and 60s went on, the shipping container became the big thing, and because shipping containers couldn't be handled at traditional ports, new ports had to be made on the city's dollar to be able to create a container ship port that would be able to specialize in the operation of shipping containers, onloading them and offloading them from ships and onto trucks and trains, or the other way around. And the city of Portland didn't want to shell out the cash. The city of Portland said, well, we've got a very fine functioning traditional port, and this whole containerization thing is a fad, and it's going to die off, and we're going to be totally fine. Fast forward 7 more years, and the port of Portland was dead. There was no ships going into Portland anymore. Everything had moved on to containers. And so Portland's financial tax base, or really their revenue base for the city, completely died off because most of it was centered around the ports, hence the name Portland. So because of that, the city of Portland, still to this day, is dealing with a very troubled and very fragile sort of a local economy, or a local recession for the large part, and they're still trying to claw their way out of it, but it's incredibly difficult. On the other hand, the ports of Seattle, or the city of Seattle, and Tacoma invested heavily in producing their own shipping container ports, and because of that, they actually diverted the traffic going to Portland into Tacoma and Seattle, and they were able to generate a great deal of revenue from operating those ports, because there's port usage fees and stuff, and mooring pretty much rent for the large part, and that is why the cities of Seattle and Tacoma have a good bit more of municipal money to throw around to make things look nicer, is because they have the ports to lean back on, to pretty much count on a dependable income source coming from. So I thought I'd share that with you all, because that's something that some people may not know, is that's why a lot of those port cities that used to be port cities either don't have ports anymore, or their economies have completely died, is because of containerization and the effects of that pretty much globally, but especially inside the United States. Moving on from that, though, it is time for us to get on into some of them juicy questions, because we have had a lot of people asking all kinds of interesting questions, an incredibly large amount, I'd have to say, and I want to make sure that we get to a couple of them before we move on into the whole, the U.S. is going to start bombing Iran thing, and then on into the Ukraine war itself, and talking about the frontline situation, because there is a lot going on, quite a great deal. So, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our first super chat here, as a croak a little bit right there, but this one's going to go to K-Dub Janky, and thank you very much, K-Dub, for that very generous $50 support, and we appreciate that very much. And K-Dub said, filling up my coffee, not snow coffee, LOL, in my LSA mug.
Hey, and I love to hear it. And I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running and putting LSA coffee in your LSA mug. I got to thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running, because if it wasn't for folks, also, Matthew, which super chat was that again?
It was K-Dub Janky.
Matthew, that is not K-Dub Janky super chat. That is Leora Abigail's that you read off right there.
Oh, I must have gotten it mixed up. Let me read it again. Somehow my spreadsheet has gotten mixed up. I'll have to fix that here in a second. But K-Dub said, just finished reading a book about James Madison, who, of course, authored the American Constitution. And even Churchill tipped his hat to James's genius and would love to hear your thoughts on it.
James Madison was, while my voice is just having a time of it tonight, James Madison actually is a fairly interesting person. Let me go pull him up so that way I can show him to y'all right here. Let me go get him. Let's see here. He was the fourth. Yeah. I'll be honest with you. I actually don't really like him too much. Not because of the Constitution, but because of his presidency. He was actually the one who started the War of 1812. He's also the only president to ever come under direct enemy fire because of that. He's also the only president to have ever fled Washington, D.C. to escape the British Army. He's that guy. I personally didn't really like him that much as a president because it was a bit of a goofy thing. To give y'all a little bit of a history lesson here. Back in early American history, when the United States had just declared independence from the United Kingdom, and the United Kingdom recognized their independence with the Treaty of Paris of 1783, there was a pretty prevailing mindset at the time that the U.S. should just annex Canada. I'm not kidding. Like, that's not like a modern thing only. That actually was a pretty big thing back in the day. Thomas Jefferson actually was one of the biggest proponents at the time and said that annexing Canada was just a matter of marching. So move on from that, fast forward a little bit, and we're now in the early 1800s, and the Napoleonic Wars are in full swing, and there's pretty much open acts of piracy being conducted on American ships at sea by both the British and the French. The U.S. sends diplomats to France, and they get involved in what's called the XYZ affair, which is where pretty much the French incensed the United States by blowing off their diplomats. And then after that, there was a couple of other things that the British did that were kind of minor, but we used them as justifications to declare war on Britain, and we immediately marched, or attempted to march, into Canada and annex it. What happened was that for the next 3 years, from 1812 to about 1815, war was raged between the United States and the United Kingdom. For the large part, battles were won on both sides, but there was an absolutely devastating blow that happened just right outside of Washington. A British flotilla floated up the river and pushed the small U.S. flotilla in the Chesapeake Bay back and up towards Aberdeen, and they were able to land north of Baltimore. And not only that, a contingent of that army marched around Baltimore and straight towards Bladensburg, which is right outside of Baltimore. The Battle of Bladensburg commenced, and that's where James Madison got directly fired upon by a British rocket artillery detachment, which fired rockets at his position, and they begged him to flee from the area. So he fled, and as the army saw that he was fleeing, and the British were pretty much suppressing them with superior firepower, the entire U.S. Army at Bladensburg got up and ran and went into a complete rout. They routed straight through Washington, D.C., and as they went, they said, the British are right behind us, and they're going to come in. They're probably going to burn the place down. Everyone tried to pack up as much as they could and leave, and in the process, everyone mostly got most of the important stuff out and left, we'll put it that way. The British showed up, burned down all of the government buildings in Washington, D.C., and that was all thanks to James Madison, because if it wasn't for James Madison largely being in support of the idea of invading Canada, none of that would have happened. And also, I just don't like that idea that he was that guy. But beyond that, he was one of the original authors of the Constitution. It is the father of the Constitution for the large part, which is incredibly interesting because he was taking a lot of lessons of the failures of the Articles of Confederation, which is the original Constitution of the United States, if we want to call it that. But the Articles of Confederation are much different than the Constitution of the United States. But he took a lot of lessons from that, of course, from things like Shays' Rebellion and also a whole bunch of other issues that have been created in between the states themselves. I think one of the bigger ones was in between the state of New York and Maryland over some economic issues where they started to tariff each other significantly because they didn't like the actions of the other state in regards to trade imported into that other state. They started to tariff each other heavily. There was a whole bunch of issues like that. So James Madison went in and wrote up the Constitution to largely deal with those issues and to also deal with some other issues of the government that had not really been sorted out too well. Like, for example, the federal government just being completely non-existent and so weak it really had no binding power. In the pre-constitutional United States, the Articles of Confederation laid out that the states actually had the power and the federal government had none. It wasn't even an equal. The federal government pretty much just was able to say things, kind of like the United Nations, but the states actually held the real power. The Constitution that James Madison wrote changed all of that and spun it around to where the federal government was actually the supreme decider in power, but the states combined have equal power compared to the federal government. Or really any one state actually has equal power compared to the federal government, unless if that issue is brought up to the Supreme Court and the Supreme Court settles the matter, because the Supreme Court is the the Supreme Court of the land, meaning that any actions or decisions that it makes on what's constitutional or unconstitutional, or what is proper and not proper, pretty much goes across the United States. Even it applies to states. So with that, I hope that touches on that somewhat well. Don't really know James Madison a lot beyond he was the president during the War of 1812, and I honestly have never really been a fan of the War of 1812 because I just never really got what the point was, and it also didn't really end too well. And I know a lot of people are gonna be like, well, the Battle of New Orleans was pretty neat, but the Battle of New Orleans happened 3 weeks after the war ended. Like the Treaty of Ghent had already been signed in Ghent in Belgium. So we weren't even in a war. Like the message just hadn't reached anyone in New Orleans yet. So the British and the United States had a battle 3 weeks after the war ended. We beat the British handily in that battle, but it wasn't even a part of the war anymore because the war had already ended. They just didn't know. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address that well. And thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this channel possible, KW Janky, and we wouldn't be able to keep it running even right now. And so with that, we are on to the next one. But a huge thanks to you so much once again.
Yes, indeed. And our next super chat goes to I Am Donovan 73, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, I Am Donovan, for that support once more and helping to keep the channel running. And they said, just to clarify, while that is the total tariff being put on China, it is actually more punitive than that, and it is stacked, meaning you can calculate duty based off that total and call each total off the next tariff LVL.
Matthew, do you know what he's trying to say with that?
That sounded very serious, very, very panicky. But I think he's saying basically, let's see here, just to clarify, while the total tariff is more punitive than that, is stacked. Okay, so they're saying the total tariff number is actually higher, but I believe the 125% tariff number is all the tariffs stacked together, I think. So I think that should include all of the current tariffs, including the base tariffs, in that 125% figure right there. But I'm not entirely sure. Don't quote me on that. But Enforcer, what say you?
I thank you so much for the support. Unfortunately, that explanation right now, I don't know why, is going over my head. And for some reason, I'm having a little bit of a difficulty of understanding it. But I do thank you for the support. And regardless whether I'm understanding or not, at least that explanation right now, one thing I can say is that the tariffs are incredibly punitive, pretty much ensuring that no one can trade with China without taking significant losses. Because who in the world's going to buy Chinese goods now, considering that if they're imported with those kinds of tariffs applied to the final cost, they're going to be far less competitive than any other good on the market right now, whether it be European, Mexican, Canadian, or whatever. So with that, I got to thank you so much once again for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I hope that does address that somewhat well, or at least the best I can right now. And with that, we are on to the final question of the segment, and then we're going to be moving on into the whole Iran, will we bomb them or not, news.
All right. And also, by the way, I was asking my friendly AI here, what does it mean? And it looks like I'm generally hitting the nail on the head based on what they're trying to say. So they're basically saying that the total tariff is worse than 125%. But I think the 125% is accurate because there is a base tariff. I think the base tariff is 10% that the United States has put on pretty much every country in the world. And also, some people have been pointing it out in the chat that when the United States says they've put a 90-day pause on punitive tariff measures on other countries, that does not mean they've eliminated the 10% base tariff, which they put on them originally. So all of it's very confusing. A lot of people really don't know what's going on with it. And it's not because people are ignorant. It's just because there's so many changes, so much chaos going on with it. Nobody can really keep up. Even the experts are having a hard time trying to figure out exactly what's in place and what's not in place, which obviously that would make it damn near difficult for a company to figure out what they're actually paying until they actually try to ship something. So just confusion galore, but that's why I think it could be. But anyways, moving on to our next one. This one goes to Marion Deemert, another channel legend who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you, Marion, very much as well for that support. And they said, Slava Ukraine and Hiram Slava.
And Slava Ukraini, Heram Slava. And thank you so much for the support, Marion Deemert, and helping this channel to keep on running, because it is folks like you who have supported this channel day in and day out with massive amounts of support that help this channel to keep on running. I got to thank you massively for doing that once again tonight, because it is folks like you who have made this thing a reality for many years, and hopefully will be able to help us to continue to keep the Enforcer channel alive for many more years to come. So huge thanks to you so much once again, and a huge thanks to all of you all so far who have thrown in support tonight. If you have thrown in support and we haven't read it off, do not fret. Do not worry. We will read it off before the end of the night. It's just that we have to get to the rest of the news first, and then we'll read off all the remaining super chats that we have right now. So with that, we are going to be moving on into that Iran news, because it's a fairly interesting one. We have been able to hear from the United States today, specifically the president, that he has stated that military action against Iran is absolutely possible, meaning that it's highly being considered at this point by the United States. We have also been able to see, before we even get to what Iran's doing in the Middle East or what their proxy forces are doing, that the Russians have weighed in a little bit on this as well and have stated that they are already backing off. They have said that they are not obligated to help Iran in the event of a U.S. attack, and that is according to a Russian diplomat. So although technically they have that little defensive pact with Iran, the Russians are already making it clear that they're really not going to honor that, and it was more so of a goodwill gesture that really didn't have any meaning behind it than something that was going to actually be binding to the Russians and that they were going to enforce. Meaning right now, Iran is largely on their own. However, the Russians did do the strongest thing imaginable, and they did put in a diplomatic protest, as Sergei Lavrov said that a military strike on Iran by its rivals would violate international law, oaths and all. And of course the oaths were thrown in because he's a horse. But beyond that, But beyond that, it does appear that the Russian Federation will not be backing up the Iranians if the United States bombs them. We also were able to hear in the meantime inside the Middle East that the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps is starting to transfer more weapons to Iraqi sects that support the Iranian cause, once again trying to arm them in preparation for a larger conflict across the wide region. And we also were able to hear that the Houthis attempted to fire missiles at the Israelis today, and those missiles, some of them crashed in Saudi Arabia, some of them actually crashed inside of Yemeni Houthi-controlled territory in western Yemen, meaning that most of the missiles didn't even make it towards the state of Israel by the time that they hit the ground inside of Saudi Arabia. It is once again showing us that the Iranians are taking warlike preparations, at least in their own way, to prepare for what's coming with the United States of America, but it also shows that we will not be seeing the Russian Federation backing them up, meaning that the likelihood of an aggressive action by the United States and Israel against Iran is actually rising in certainty at this point, as we really don't have to count on a larger country like Russia or China attempting to come to Iran's aid if we start to bomb them, or largely the threat of World War III happening if we start to take aggressive action against Iran. So that largely does mean we'll probably be seeing that U.S. military operations against the Islamic Republic of Iran will happen in the future. Moving on from that, though, and on out of the Islamic Republic of Iran, we were also able to hear a little bit of news from China. But before we move on to that, I just saw that poll. It was literally just put up. And the Yemeni Houthis have shot down their fourth Reaper drone today. I forgot to put that in the news. We had so much of it, I just didn't put that one in. But still, they shot down their fourth Reaper drone of this year, and will this escalate the U.S. attacks on the Yemeni Houthis? And it seems that a lot of people are seeing yes. And so, Matthew, what are people thinking, and what are you thinking as well?
All right. So now that we have heard today that another Reaper drone was shot down, the Houthis are actually shooting down quite a number of those, with this being the fourth one. Will the U.S. escalate the attacks in retaliation? So 64% said yes, the U.S. will escalate much more, while 26% said no, the U.S. will maintain the current plans, and 6% said the U.S. is already maxed out. And when it comes to the air campaign, I would say the U.S. is pretty much at its limit right now with what they're doing, because so far they're sending in the fighter jets to keep bombing, and they're also, at least according to rumors, they're sending in B-2s with JASSMs. So we're sending in quite a lot of ordnance and also high-tech aircraft to strike these Houthis, and this has been ongoing for weeks now. So I think they're doing pretty much all they can until they are ready to basically go in on the ground on the U.S. side. So I think that they're maxed out, and they'll probably maintain their current plans and see how it goes from here, and they'll hope that over time the Houthis get so worn down by these daily airstrikes that they eventually give in. And it sounds like Iran's pretty much abandoned them at this point, so the Houthis could be in their last dying stage right here. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that in my honest opinion, the United States will escalate a great deal more over the Reapers being shot down. It is showing that the Yemeni Houthis do have some form of limited air defense and will most likely start to pose a significant threat to the area of the southern Red Sea again in the future, so they'll most likely intensify the air attacks. I cannot stress it enough that air attacks are not enough to deal with the situation. An actual ground force needs to be put inside of Yemen to take control of the territory in support of the Yemeni government, so that way we can finally put this to rest once and for all. If we do not do that, this is not going to end anytime soon. We can bomb them as much as we want, but you can bomb anyone as much as you want, and it generally doesn't stop them. They crawl back out of the holes after the bombing is over, and they get right back to their militant activity. So you have to be able to get down there on the ground and actually deal with the situation. Otherwise, this is going to continue to persist for years, if not decades, if the Islamic Republic of Iran isn't dealt with in exchange. But moving on from that, and out of the Middle East, it is time for us to move on up into the area of Ukraine, because we have a load of combat footage and news to cover from the state of Ukraine today. Starting off, we were able to hear that at least 155 Chinese citizens are fighting on the Russian side, according to Zelensky. The president noted that they are being recruited through social networks, such as TikTok. And who said that TikTok wasn't a commie Chinese propaganda app? They're recruiting Chinese citizens through TikTok. I don't think they're recruiting them through TikTok, actually, man, because, like, I don't even think the Chinese actually have access to TikTok. They have access to, like, the sister company version of TikTok inside of China.
Yeah, I doubt that too. It's like it seems like honestly, because of course there are some people in China that are desperate for some work. They just might figure, let's just go over there and go fight for a foreign country and make some cash that way. So yeah, I don't really think they need TikTok for that. And also, that would also remove part of their plausible deniability if they start advertising positions like that through TikTok, because of course someone's going to see it and post it, and then it's going to blow the lid on the whole thing.
Yeah, like that's it. I don't really know about this, but it's still interesting here that they have some sort of an exact number of 155. That honestly isn't anything. That's a drop in the bucket compared to the amount of active troops that are inside of Ukraine on both sides, both the Russian and the Ukrainian side. That is absolutely nothing. So it's not a significant element of Chinese citizens that are fighting in the war. We also were able to hear of the air defense operating in the north tonight as the drones were coming in, and they were taking them on down.
Oh, is that a gush gun?
I think it might be.
Есть збиття, подрыв в небе.
Yes.
Ціль знищена. Ціль знищена. Yes.
Oh, you see them taking them on down. Also, by the way, I just want to reiterate this really quickly, please, folks. There's no politics on this channel. I know a lot of people are going to go, but you're talking about tariffs. That's a foreign policy thing. Has a lot to do with analysis and our position and standing in the world. We analyze that. Putting tariffs on everyone isn't a great idea, okay? Sadly, that's not a political thing. If you take it as that, you might be brain dead. But we have a no politics rule. I'm not going to have people coming in here and putting their political slogans in the chat. If you do that, you're going to be timed out or most likely banned on the spot. We just don't have that stuff. I saw someone trying to test that rule, and I'm just going to make it a little bit clearer here really quickly that that's not something that's allowed. So if you want to be political, you're running the risk of a ban, or you can go somewhere else and be political there. I'm sure they'll welcome you. We see them taking down another drone right there. For some reason, it just turned into like a smoke ring.
What was that in the sky? Did you see that?
A drone? Maybe?
I couldn't tell what the hell that was. It was like another one of those Glocks.
Man, tonight's a night of mysteries in the skies over Ukraine and Russia. Who knows what those things are? But moving on towards the border, we also were able to see the Ukrainians hitting some Russians in Bryansk by dropping some bomblets on them. Or more so, hammers. Check it out. And they are hitting them hard. Man, I gotta tell you, Matthew, I don't know what it is, man, but sometimes saying no politics gets people going. Like, they gotta put in a political slogan at that point. It's like, man, it's like you're not testing it. It's like you're just gonna get a ban. Like, I'm trying to make that clear to some folks. Like, we are not political on this channel. Yes, sometimes the administrations in charge don't make good moves. Sometimes we make that fairly clear. Never on domestic politics, though. If the topic is gun control, abortion, or anything like that, we don't touch it. That's not our wheelhouse. We're entirely inside of world news and foreign policy that is inside the United States' strategic and economic interests. So when we talk about things like tariffs, we're talking about whether it's going to cause significant economic damage or not. The stock market clearly shows that what we were saying was founded in fact and reality. But if you try and go and, use this channel as some sort of a soapbox for your own political beliefs, you're going to get banned very quickly. I just want to make that a little bit clear. But moving on from that, and on up into the area of the Ukrainian occupied zones, we have been able to see that the Ukrainians have been laying out some anti-tank mines with their Baba Yagas.
The rugby team.
The rugby team. They are working in the sports section. And we see them dropping the landmines down in the streets below. Just getting them ready for when the Russians come by.
That land's mine.
And here comes the Russians. Oh man, it's already a bad day for them. Oh man, I'm telling you.
We'll see. Mick Ranger said, wait until you guys see better video of that strange drone you thought was a helicopter. It's wild. I'll be honest with you, Mick. I actually just saw like another post that somebody made that's actually pretty good, like on point with their intel like analysis. And they believe it could be a brand new type of Ukrainian drone that looks like a helicopter, sounds like a helicopter, but it's something different, kind of similar to a Romanian type flying object called an ADIFO. Which is a bit of a strange-looking aircraft. We have a picture of which we can look at a little bit later, but I'm not really sure at this point. I'm kind of all over the map on this one.
Oh, you see them continuing to hit the Russians here. Now you see the Russians cooking down there in the streets. Oh, dang, man. They got that one nice to the side right there. Holy moly.
Oh.
Man, for some reason, your mic only picked up, like, literally the last, millisecond of that. I heard you go out there, ooh, and then you went, ooh, and on the microphone, and that was it.
Oh.
Oh. Well, that's the end of the clip right there. Very interesting to see. And moving on from that and on into our next clip, we also were able to see that the Ukrainians today did confirm through President Zelensky that they are inside of Belgorod as they play Trap Remix crossing the border into the Belgorod Oblast. They have been there for quite some time. We've been talking about it for about 2 weeks, but it was officially confirmed by the Ukrainian government today, so we were able to report that and say without a shadow of a doubt they are in there.
That's a lot of dragon's teeth. Also, this must be a massive screen or something. That guy was small as hell next to that huge screen.
Man, he was. He was a tiny little guy. Look at that. Let's get it right here. Dude, that's like a
70-inch plasmas in there.
Yeah, man. I mean, that's crazy. Honestly, I wonder where they're getting them from. Must be that American money, or something. But anyways, moving on from that and into our next clip, we also got to see near Demidovka, the Ukrainians were hitting the Russian forces.
This is the Pentagon. Man, I tell you what.
Man, and now they're laying it down, though. I mean, I'm not really sure if they're the Pentagon, but they are laying it down.
These unit names for like the Pentagon that the Ukrainians are calling their unit now is like such interesting wordage they're using. Like they have the Rugby Brigade, they have the Pentagon Brigade now. It's like it's interesting.
Man, next thing you know, they're gonna have whoa, look at that boiler brigade.
Oh man.
Man, they don't actually provide any value to the Ukrainian army. They just complain about the Ukrainian army 24/7.
Aw, man.
Whoa.
Call it the Aw, man brigade. Aw, man.
Whoa. Look at that Ukrainian soldier. I mean, might be like the Terminator or something, but whoa. Look at that. Look at that spoiler.
Oh, look. That was stupid.
Man, that was ultra stupid. But moving on from that and on into our next clip, we also got to see here the Ukrainians hitting the Russian forces once again through the Magyar's birds. Some of y'all may be wondering, why have we not been seeing the Magyar's birds lately? Well, that's because they kind of got pushed out of our news segment because of the length of their videos. Magyar's birds videos are always interesting, but they're about 15 minutes long apiece. And considering how much news we have to cover around the world these days, we just never have the time to show them anymore. They're still put out, though, and Madyar's Birds is alive and well, and so is Madyar. It's just that we never have enough time these days to be able to show the clips in full. But we can see them right here.
Madyar just has a way with these birds. He's like the bird whisperer or something.
Man, he walks around like in New York and going, whoa, look at these buds here. Look at these buddies. You know, something like that.
He walks around like Caesar Milan with these birds. So you just have to know how to talk to the dog. You just have to know how to talk to him. You have to put your hand out and poke the dog. Hey, sit down.
You have to get your hand and grip around its neck and then slide it across the carpet and give it rug burn. Like it just
It's like, see if you just slam the dog to the ground and he just stops barking. Oh, well, geez, I wonder why.
You see if you get this baseball bat. It's like, bro, I don't think this is teaching the dog anything. I didn't have to do none of that to our dogs, and our corgis are perfect.
Man, these Ukrainians are just like, you know, call them chesty puller, but I mean, they're coming in with these low blows.
Whoa. I mean, look at these Ukrainian Marines. I mean, they might be chesty puller the way they're giving the Russians purple nurples. Oh, whoa.
I have no idea what that last part meant.
I tried to make it work. Some people might know what that meant in the chat.
Oh, look, like a Range Rover clone. It just got blown up, whatever that was.
Rip.
And they're just hitting everything.
Man, they hit a security camera right there.
Man, they're trying to stop that shoplifting. Oh, look, like lava.
That's the end of the clip right there, but very nice to see and good to know. Moving on from that and on out of the area of Belgorod. Actually, one more clip in Belgorod. The Russian offensive technically did begin. The offensive on Sumy and Kharkiv regions has officially begun, according to Sersky. He's looking kind of tired these days. Despite ongoing negotiations, the enemy's strategic offensive continues with the aim of seizing key Ukrainian territories. They want a buffer zone in the Kharkiv, Sumy, and Chernihiv regions. They'll most likely never achieve that. Moving on from that and into our location unknowns, we did get to see the aftermath of a drone strike onto a Russian vehicle today. Take a look at this, please.
Сука! Шлюха ебаная! Давай сейчас уебет нахуй.
Bro, why does this look like that meme of that guy who was playing the piano that was on fire?
This is fine.
No, not that one, not that one. Let's see. Let me go find. Yeah, here we go. Dude, if you have not seen this one, I'm going to be saddened. This one.
Oh, that one. Yeah, that one.
You haven't seen it, have you?
I've never seen this.
No way, dude. No way. Dude, this
Is that Thomas Jefferson?
I have no clue. It's apparently Danila Bolshakov, Burning Piano, Max Richter cover. But beyond that, this is a meme, dude. This is an absolute meme. Like, whenever there's a garbage song that is ever, like, played on, like, Instagram or something, you can find at least one of these reaction memes in the comment section below that clip every single time. But that's what this reminded me of, man. Like, when he was walking around, I was like, bro, this kind of reminds me of that Burning Piano meme.
Yeah, it's toast, man. Honestly, look at this thing.
Man, really. Dude, honestly, man, your "This Is Fine" voice sounded like someone else.
After I did, I was thinking that sounded a little bit on the fence. I'm not going to lie.
Welcome back. No, please, please. No, we're going to get an angry community post thrown at us again. Oh, God. Say what? Say what?
I said, this is fine. I didn't say pause. Okay, resume.
I couldn't hear you. You said it while I was talking. I was like, I don't even know what he said, man. I was like, maybe he'll say it again. But moving on from that, we did get to see the Russian casualty report over the past 24 hours, and no Bobcats.
Oh, they got 0 Bobcats, though. That is not fine. I want some Bobcats, please, but we have none. But Enforcer, tell us more.
Well, I got to tell you, folks, that the losses are quite nice. We usually do voice impersonations. My voice is getting better to the point I can do some, but the voice impersonation that we're touching on a little bit right here, can't be taken in good jest. To put it short, the voice impersonation for that person apparently is so on point that they think it mocks them, and their ego's a little bit too big to hear someone do an impression of them, and we'll have an angry community poster on our way, and their whole community of people will come over and brigade us. So we can't do that one, sadly, because we just don't want to deal with that stupid kind of drama. But nevertheless, Miss Decent, keeper of the records, did state that troop losses are slowly declining, as are tanks and AFVs. Artillery vehicle losses did increase, now over the 7-day average, and MLRS and special equipment fade to 0. Very sad thing. But we were able to hear that 1,270 Russian soldiers were wounded and killed over the past 24 hours, along with 10 APCs, 118 supply trucks, 4 main battle tanks, 52 artillery pieces, 56 drones, and 1 anti-aircraft warfare system. Pretty nice to see, and we'll have to see these kinds of losses, because while they're getting a little bit lower these days, they're still incredibly high relative to other averages throughout the war. But that moves us on down into the area of Pokrovsk, where we were able to see that they were hitting Russian forces. There was no other video clips throughout the entirety of the front line today. The Ukrainians are holding defensive battles in all of these areas. The Russians are not making ground practically anywhere today, but they did get pushed back a little bit inside the area of Pokrovsk. But moving on into this clip here, check out the 72nd Mechanized Brigade destroying this Russian T-72 right here. You see them getting the drone ready to hit it inside the trees, and right down into the opening. And here comes another one. There's the T-72, and oh, buddy, it's about to have a bad day, I tell you. Oh, and they got it.
They got him. They got him.
Call that thing smoked orcs, because that thing turned into a smoker.
Call in the artillery. Call in some brigades. Send them in and hit it hard.
I gotta tell you, I love watching Russian tanks burn. I love watching orcs get barbecued. As they say, you gotta have them ribs. And like, we got from there.
The second part's not rated PG. You gotta think carefully before you say it.
You gotta have them ribs. And I'd say the other part, but we get age restricted too. Like, it's moving on from that. We also get to see that the Russians are moving in on assault ATVs with trailers. This is an ATV that's hauling a trailer behind it. And it looks like all the guys are trying to climb off, but those guys didn't really make it. There's another one. A assault ATV with trailer.
Wow.
And that's the end of the clip right there. But that's the end of the clip. And it appears that the Russians just aren't having a good time of it down there still. Ukrainians say that Russia now officially started a new spring offensive. And will this finally end those peace talks, considering that we were just talking about that like 5 or 7 minutes ago about what was going on in up in that area? And it looks like a lot of people are saying that, yes, it will end peace talks now. Others are saying that peace talks will go on forever. And some are saying it will wind them down just a little bit. But Matthew, what are people thinking about it? And what are you thinking about it as well?
So 54%, which is the majority, said yes, it will end peace talks now, while 28% said no, peace talks will go on forever, while 10% said, it'll wind them down some, just a little bit. But I would say that now that Russia has launched this brand new spring offensive, it's basically on the United States as to how we're going to respond to this, because Zelensky's been telling the United States that Russia's broken the ceasefire. They're once again starting these brand new offensives, and Putin is doubling down on trying to basically usurp the elections inside of Ukraine by pushing for one and trying to install a puppet. So Putin is doing everything under his normal umbrella to try to mess with Ukraine and trying to take it over still, which goes contrary to wanting peace. So the Ukrainians have been telling the United States that, and so far the one thing we've heard from the United States is that I believe the current officials are quote-unquote unhappy about the attacks, and that's about it. That's the only response we've gotten so far. Nothing concrete except for the application of new sanctions on the Russian Federation that were somewhat limited in scope. So I'm going to say that it'll wind the peace talks down a little bit. It'll bring them a little bit closer to an end, but it won't end them permanently. They're still going to keep talking or try to talk, because that appears to be the modus operandi right now. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that it's probably going to wind down the peace talks a great deal. It might end them because it doesn't really appear that the Russians are operating in good faith at all. So they're pretty much coming to an end for that reason, anyways. But they still might try and force them to continue somehow, some way. Although if you're getting behind, quit while you're behind for the large part at this point, because I've just never seen someone try and negotiate something this badly. It's just a shame, really. We should have given up a while ago on talking to the Russians. But moving on from that, we also get to see the Ukrainians destroying a Strela near Pokrovsk.
Australia.
Strela. I wish I could do it. I'm about to cough if I do that any harder.
We got some bots in here tonight, man. Like, I've noticed, like, there's been like a few bots in here. I got one a minute ago, and I got a good zinger in on him, so he had to come back in on the second account to get even with me. Honestly, I respect the dedication. Like, that's actually good dedication to go through the trouble of creating a new Google account just to do that. But it only lasted for like 5 seconds, so that was terrible.
Man, voice and Matt suck. That band. It's like
I'm sorry. Say again. I couldn't hear you.
Man, it's like, can I hear that a little bit louder from the back row? It's like from the nosebleed section. Can I hear that a little bit better?
The nosebleed section? What is it, like the Chernobyl row?
Yeah, it's the nosebleeds.
Man, that's tough. Yeah, get you a napkin.
Man, I'm telling you, man. You gotta hear them from the nosebleeds, I'm telling you. Someone comes in here like that saying stupid stuff, and then it's like, they got a half and half chance, man. Like I was saying last night, they can't even read. So it's honestly, man. Dude, I feel like that's like the biggest insult you can fling at anyone, man. Like nothing else, like you're an asshole or a jackass or an MF or anything like that. Just say something like, bro, you probably can't even read. Like it just like insults them to the bare bone of how unintelligent they probably are. So like, what's even the point? You're probably too stupid. Like, honestly, man, I feel like that's a strong insult. I might be wrong though.
Honestly, man, the response would probably be, "Look, man, I may not know how to read, but I like the internet. I like to look at social media, man. I.
Dude, someone would probably be like, bro, on God, man, you're not on the blockchain, though. And I'll be like, dude, I don't care, man. Like, bro, you're probably broke. It's like from being on the blockchain at this point. And we see them taking out a drone right here. I forgot to give this, like, any context. We were watching the Ukrainians knock out a drone.
We only got a small window of drone right here.
A little window. They blurred everything out but the drone. But they did take it out, which is nice to see. And down in the city, well, near to Kherson, we also got to see a Russian command post getting hit by a Ukrainian airstrike. Right there.
Big boom. Jaga, jaga, Igor.
And that's seeing the clip right there. But very nice to see, and we love to see it. Moving on from that, and on out of that little bit of news, and on up into the area of Kyiv, it's time for us to get to the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 1141 of the war. So let me get to that speech really quickly. And there we are. Without further ado, here is the speech. Speech!
Speech!
Дорогі українці, українки, головне за цей день. Був військовий кабінет, ґрунтовні доповіді, Сирський, Гнатов, Драпати. Всі напрямки, всі частини фронту, наші позиції, необхідне постачання, комплектування. Максимум можливого для стабілізації ситуації, для наших активних дій і для нашої активної дипломатії. Також сьогодні обговорили з міністром оборони України підготовку до Рамштайну, який запланований на п'ятницю. Пріоритет номер 1 – протиповітряна оборона. Передусім, протиракетна оборона, проти балістики. Україні потрібно щонайменше 10 систем, достатньо ефективних саме проти російських балістичних ракет. Патріоти роблять це найкраще. Ми говорили неодноразово з американською стороною, з усіма в Європі, хто здатен допомогти. Ми розраховуємо на рішення. Тільки за цей день вже було кілька повітряних тривог по країні через загрозу балістики. В частині нашої країни люди фактично постійно живуть під загрозою таких ударів. І зараз у світі є дефіцит лише політичних рішень для захисту життя, а не самих систем. Дефіцит. Системи у світі є, навіть патріотів достатньо, щоб раз і назавжди гарантувати захист від російського терору. Але це рішення політиків, це рішення партнерів. Другий пріоритет на Рамштайні – це конкретне опрацювання незмінності підтримки в цьому році. Стабільність та передбачуваність допомоги для України – це те, що розчаровує агресора і реально стимулює до дипломатії. Потрібно знищити цю спокусу у Путіна, коли він сподівається, що підтримка України зникне. Не зникне. Підтримка буде продовжуватись. Нам потрібен цей сигнал і незмінне постачання оборонної допомоги. Сьогодні ж міністр закордонних справ України доповідав щодо своєї поїздки у Кривий Ріг на місце жорстокого удару просто по дітях, по людях, по звичайній міській вулиці. Були в цій поїздці представники 32 держав, посли та керівники місій. Я дякую кожній країні, кожному дипломату за такий прояв підтримки. Важливо, щоб світ бачив, що реально відбувається. І ще одне. Служба безпеки України здійснює перші процесуальні дії із полоненими громадянами Китаю. Вони в Києві спілкуються зі слідчими, дають інформацію про те, як опинились на фронті, як стали учасниками цього міжнародного злочину, цієї російської війни проти України. Ми маємо інформацію також і щодо інших громадян КНР у складі російської армії з іменами, прізвищами та описом конкретних шляхів потрапляння таких солдатів в російський окупаційний контингент. Дипломатичними каналами ми доведемо необхідну інформацію до китайської сторони. І, звісно, до кожного у світі, хто чув, як в Пекіні говорили, що не можна розпалювати цю війну ще більше і розширювати її масштаб. Залучення ще й громадян Китаю у цю війну – це точно розпалення більшої проблеми. І на це потрібно абсолютно принципово реагувати. Посилювати окупаційний контингент і говорити про мир – це взаємовиключні речі. Очікуємо також і на принциповість партнерів, на принциповість в підтримці України. Дякую всім, хто дійсно все робить, щоб справедливо завершити війну тривалим миром. Дякую нашим воїнам. Слава Україні!
And the Ram Slava. And with that, that is the end of the speech from President Volodymyr Zelensky here on day 1,141 of the war. And that moves us on into the second segment where we get to talk to all of y'all. And boy, howdy, what a fun segment it's going to be. It's a blast every single time because we get to talk about literally anything and everything. And we always have the greatest of times talking about literally anything and everything. Because this is the moment where we're free for the large part. We don't have to keep to a track or a specific kind of news. We can just talk about whatever. And that's what makes the question segment neat. We can talk about anything. So with that, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so jumping into our final question segment of the night. We have many good questions to get to, super chats and live chats and Morse code decoders, but we are fresh out of polls. But before we jump back into our super chats, let's address something which is kind of interesting to see, and people are bringing up a very good point with this. And it looks like Intel Schizo on Twitter actually brought this up, and I have to give credit where it's due. I actually was not able to find this on my own. This was something that I've never really heard of before until they brought it up. So apparently Romania has a thing called called an ADIFO, which is an all-directional flying object. And there's a picture of it right there. And some people are speculating that maybe this was something, or at least close to it, that was seen flying through Moscow. The only thing I would say would be different right off the bat is there appears to be something rotating on the vehicle that we're seeing flying over Moscow, like a helicopter. This ADIFO does not appear to have any type of external rotor blades on it. It's probably jet propulsion, I would assume. I really don't know that for a fact, though. But this is actually a pretty unique device right here. Apparently, it's made by some Romanian engineers, and I've never actually heard of it. So it must be pretty new, or either I've just been flying under the radar with this one. But Enforcer, what do you think? Do you think Ukraine's developed something new, or are you still hedging your bets on that's a Russian helicopter friendly fire incident?
I'm hedging my bets on that thing's a Russian helicopter, and it was probably a friendly fire incident. I don't know what's happening, but I'm going to relate the worst coughing fit. But I have probably still a Russian helicopter. That's probably the most mundane and easiest answer to go with.
That could be it. That could be it. Pull up, by the way, pull up the ADIFO on a different tab, and let's see what the specs on this thing are real quick, because I'm curious to see what the specs are and what this thing is actually propulsed by, or what the propulsion is on this thing.
Gotcha. Let me see if I can go pull that up here. And, oh yes, their website. It did not look good, so we were going to see if there's a Wikipedia. There is not. So, I don't know what's happening with that. But best I can do is pictures, because their website was terrible, dude. I could not show that on air. But this is the thing.
Let's see. And also, let's see. I think Jay Bagwell sent me a video of it. Let me go take a look here. I don't know if we can show it. Let me take a look and see if we can actually show this video. So, sadly, I don't think we can show the video because it does say it's copyrighted by, apparently the company copyrighted it. So that's apparently their promotional material. But it looks like it's powered by fans and also two main propulsion jets at the back. And it can go pretty much any direction. But that thing looks very, very early. And of course, it was made about a few years back. And it looks like it really hadn't gotten off the ground. So I'm not saying Ukraine hasn't developed something that's even more advanced than that. But, you know, I don't know. I'm actually still saying it might be a helicopter. Even after looking at this thing, it looks like it's probably a helicopter because the sound was there, the fuselage was there, and also the only thing that wasn't lining up was the lighting. But then again, they could just add lights to the rotors, and that could explain why it looks like that.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think it's most likely a helicopter. Interesting idea though, but still, this is a bit of a stretch. Still an interesting suggestion though, and cool that Intel Schizo knew about that thing. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to delve deep, Matthew, deep I say, into this question segment. So what do we got, Matthew? What do we got?
All right. So jumping into our first super chat here, this one is going to go to Charles Hazlitt, who puts in a $20 donation. And thank you very much, Charles, for that support and helping to keep the channel running, because it is that support, like we say, just like PBS, that keeps the channel running along. So we appreciate that, Charles. And he says, thank you for your work.
Thank you so much, Charles, for appreciating our work and supporting it, because if it wasn't for folks like you, Charles Hazlitt, we wouldn't have been able to make this thing possible for an incredibly long time. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that incredibly...
Damn, man, you good over there?
I don't even know what started this, man. Like, I literally just went and got some water, and then I got water, and then I start coughing worse. But I thank you for the support, Charles Hazlitt, and helping this channel to keep on running. If it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible. We wouldn't be able to be here right now. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. I hope that does address that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
I mean, they don't call him Charlie Hacker, but have you ever tried a lozenger? But anyways, just joking, just joking. But moving on to our next super chat here. This one goes to Clyde, who puts in a 20 as well. And thank you very much, Clyde, for that $20 support and also help to keep the channel running. And Clyde said, what is your opinion about the U.S. wanting, or U.S. president actually, wanting a military parade? And Clyde, we'd actually heard that report initially ourselves, that apparently there was going to be a very large military parade on the anniversary of one of the branches of the military, I think, the Army, and it happened to coincide with the president's birthday. I think the White House has come out and said that that's actually not going to be happening, and those reports were false. But it's only to be seen if it actually happens or not. But I think it's been called off, at least to what we've seen. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would have to say that I mean, like, honestly, I actually think military parades are pretty neat. Like, I think they look neat. I like them. And it also allows for the folks in the service to, get out there in front of the crowds and have folks cheering for them and everything. I think it's nice. But on the flip side of that, let's say that this was going to happen, wasn't like when I say this stuff, I want folks to know. It just kills me that people can't think three-dimensionally, okay? I'm not saying that I don't like the guy, okay? I'm not saying that I like him. I'm not saying that I hate him. I'm just pointing out something that I think is a little interesting here, okay? Now, the current president said that he wants to cut down on government over expenditures and make the government as lean as possible. So what we're going to do is that we're going to have a giant military parade in Washington, D.C. that is going to cost a good amount of money to cordon off the roads, to have a whole bunch of officers paid for overtime, to disrupt the city traffic, which could affect the tax base for who knows how long, the entire day or days before that. We're going to have to move all these units there, which is going to cost millions and millions of dollars just to move them there, and then house them there for days before, for rehearsals, during, and after. So that way we can have a parade. Now, if the government's idea was to save money, then this would be stupid. If the government's idea was to just, do whatever and, just make sure to make everyone feel like they're getting a good buck out of their tax dollars that they're paying, then I'd say this is great. But the idea that the current president has, where we're supposed to be saving money as much as we can, if this was actually to go forward, this would be fairly stupid, because that's kind of just blowing in the wind of saving money, is that throwing parades like these costs a great deal of money just to move just to move people there and have the parade. So I would say that, in my honest opinion, if it was going to happen, I like the parades. I think they're neat, but I wouldn't really understand how this is working in the general framework of what the president's been saying he's trying to do. So with that, I hope that addresses that well. I don't even know what this is, Matthew, honestly, because I'm sitting here like coughing like crazy. Like, I didn't choke on any spit. All I did was drink water. I'm not choking on any water either. And now
Was it cold water?
Yeah, it was cold.
Well, that will do it.
Well, looks like everyone who's been begging me to drink water during the stream, you got your wish. You got your wish. But
No, you're
anyways,
supposed to drink hot water.
really?
Yeah, you're supposed to drink hot water or something, or just like a normal room temperature water. If you drink cold water, that sends your I don't know exactly what it does. I think it causes your system to contract, and your lungs, your throat, or something, and it causes irritation. You start coughing.
Yeah. Yeah, well, that's interesting to know now. I was about to say, yeah, I agree. And I was like, well, I'm learning about that right now. And I'm trying to keep up with everything going on in the chat, too, because I see some people saying, no, they're going to bring in tanks. Now we're hearing that's not even happening. So all that may have just been a rumor. Because one thing I do know is that during the last time this guy was president, he wanted to run a parade, and he didn't get to run one because he wanted tanks in it. And then they said that the tanks would rip up the streets. So, then they didn't have one. I remember, though, that they did do a 4th of July thing, and I'll be honest, I kind of found it lame. Like, you remember that, Matthew? You remember that one back in the day? He stood.
Was it the thing where they brought in all the planes that flew over? Was that the thing?
Yeah.
Yeah. That was actually, it wasn't bad. Like, I'm not going to just say like things are bad just because there's a certain guy in charge. I'm just looking at it objectively. It was cool. Like, there were cool points in it. It wasn't the most impressive air display I've ever seen. I'll be perfectly honest. I've actually seen more impressive stuff at like normal air shows that the Air Force puts on. But the one that was happening over DC on the 4th of July, it was neat, but it fell a little short on some aspect. I really couldn't place it, but it was, I guess it was good enough.
I would have to say, I didn't really like it too much, man. Like, it wasn't good. Like, I remember, man, they would be like, the Army, and then like 2 Apaches would fly over. The Marines, like 2 Ospreys.
It was too slow.
Yeah, and also he was giving these damn long-winded speeches during like each one, like before each one. He'd be like, "Oh, the Army storming airports during the Revolutionary War," and I was like, that didn't even happen, man. Like, what the hell are you talking about? And then he would go on for like 10 minutes. They'd be like, "Oh, people, the ratings for the Army, it's never been better." And then 2 Apaches would fly over. It's like all of that build-up for 2 Apaches. Like, hell, you can see that on a normal day here in Alabama. I mean, they literally just fly over sometimes. It's like, that was such, like, That was the most disappointing thing. Like, I was so unhappy with that when it happened. I was like, what the hell? I was like, all this buildup was for this? Like, I was legitimately expecting something cool still. I was expecting, they would have formations of like dozens of helicopters from the Army and, dozens of Ospreys from the Marines, maybe a load of F-18s from the Navy and, some F-15s from the Air Force and stuff. That's what I was thinking. Because they said it was going to be an air display only, but then it was like two of each, and I was like, that's just so lame. Like you could easily do better than that. That was
And
just
and then at first they said, I think the original plan before they cut it down to just the air show part, they were going to try to bring in I think some tanks to go down like some road in DC or something like that and have like an on the ground parade as well in addition to the aircraft, which would have probably made it look better. But the problem was there was a huge uproar about bringing in the tanks on the streets, and it would tear the streets up because of course I don't think the pavement there is designed to handle the weight of a tank, and also the treads are going to rip up that pavement obviously. So they were talking about putting rubber little like inserts on the tank treads to try to prevent that. But even at that, they were like, like we're not sure if we want to tear the roads up over that. So I'm not sure if that's true or not. If you could actually run the tanks down the road though without tearing it up, that would actually be pretty cool. Like I'm actually not against that. I think it looks pretty neat. I know some people make the argument, well, we don't want to appear like a dictatorship, because that's something dictatorships love to do is roll all their military equipment right down the center of town like it's just like a military state. But I don't see anything wrong with like showcasing military might. It's not like they're like advocating to go harm people. They're just showing what we bought. The taxpayers paid for it, so let's take a look at it.
Yeah, I mean, they have military parades all over the world. I mean, they have Trooping the Color in the UK, which is a pretty big military parade. Well, it's not the biggest, but there is 1,000 active soldiers of the British Army involved in that parade at a minimum. So quite a large number. The British have it. They're literally the birthplace of modern democracy for the large part. The French, which are a presidential republic, have Bastille Day down the Champs-Élysées, if I pronounced that correctly, from the Arc de Triomphe down to the Place de la Concorde. So they have one, and they're a presidential republic. They're a democracy. Germany doesn't have one, but we don't talk about why they don't have one. Poland has military parades. Actually, they have quite significant ones in Warsaw for their independence. They're a democracy. And then, of course, you have everyone else that has military parades, like Russia, China, North Korea. But everyone has military parades. Like, that's the honest truth. Literally everyone in the world has military parades. We're really the only country that doesn't. And so I think it would be neat if we did have a military parade for, say, like the 4th of July. But honestly, man, like a parade can be complete without the tanks. Like, if you can't drive the tanks down the streets, just take the tankers and bring them in, have them form up into a big, formation, just have them march down the street, and with their tanker helmets on, just to make it clear that that's the tankers or the, tank force of the army. I think that'd be fine.
Or it seems like if they wanted to have like a area of the street, let's say they want to take the tanks down like Pennsylvania Avenue or something like that, like a really wide street, it seemed like they could lay down some type of like maybe like plywood or something like that, like a temporary like flooring to cover and protect the roadway there, where they could ride the tanks down there and it wouldn't affect the pavement at all. It seems like there'd be a way to do that. They wouldn't be like going to break the bank. But I don't know. Like they were acting like last time it was like crazy to have to go through and put rubber on the tank. Like it was going to be monumentally expensive. So I'm not sure how expensive it would be, but it would be cool to see that, though. I think it would be pretty neat.
I think it would be neat. I think the easiest place to have a parade, though, would be down Constitution Avenue. So that way they could shoot probably, let's see, could they? I don't know. Let's see. They could go down
tarps. I don't know what kind of tarp you're talking about. You'd have to have a thick tarp to like protect that pavement.
Man, that thing would have to be like double ply. Like, honestly, that thing would have to be like triple ply. Yeah, to be able to take the weight of a tank and not just rip up instantly. But still, like that's something. Like, I got to be honest, folks. Like, that's something that always has me like in the defense of the idea of a parade is why people act like parades are like, oh, parades. Darth Vader, Hitler, it's like, well, everyone has a parade. It's like literally everyone. Like if you know anything about anything going on outside the United States, which, like, to be honest, a lot of people who write those articles don't, there are military parades in literally every other country, like literally every other one, the democracies and dictatorships alike. So it's like, it's a little bit weird that we act like, if we have a military parade, though, we're going to be a dictatorship. This is like, we had a military parade at the end of World War II. We had a military parade after we won the Gulf War. We had a military parade at the end of the Civil War. we have had military parades time and time again. We've had a load of them. And so that's what I think. Like, I don't think military parades are bad at all. I actually think it's good because for folks like me, who like to see things, like trains and such, I'd like to personally see the military out there in a parade. I think it would be nice because it gives everyone a little bit of a look at the armed forces that their tax dollars are going to, and the folks that are getting paid their salaries off of our tax dollars as well. So I wouldn't be against it that much. But then once again, though, my thing is not trying to give a tough time here. This current president said we want to save money, so we're going to save money by spending like tons of additional expense, hundreds of millions of dollars on the military parade. So it's like, where were the savings from denying the Iraqis their condoms that were supposedly like 10 million a year? We're now going to dump 100 million into a military parade. It's like that doesn't make any sense. We're not saving any money. We're still spending it. It's like that makes that there's no end goal achieved there that they're looking for, that this administration said they wanted. So that's the thing that would be my gripe about it. But beyond that, I think they're kind of neat. Anyways, with that.
Oh, also before we move on, I got a poll running right now. It says, do you like military parades in the United States? 61%, the majority, actually said no, they are a waste and it's also a bad image. And 39% said yes, they are nice and it's a good image. And I will say this, it does depend, because depending on who is ordering the military parade, it can vary drastically. If someone's ordering it because they're maybe a military enthusiast and they like the equipment and they want the people to also revel in the enjoyment of the expensive military equipment that we bought, that is one thing. But it's another thing, though, to call a military parade to show the might and basically scare the rest of the world into compliance, and also to gratify oneself. That's an entirely different thing. And to me, that's very important in deciding whether or not a military parade is a good idea or not, is because we don't want to send the wrong message by sending out the military, making it look like, for example, tanks are rolling up to the Congress or something like that. That could be an interesting image under the wrong political circumstances. So honestly, under the current political circumstances, I would say probably don't hold a military parade, to be perfectly honest. There's been a little bit too much upheaval in D.C. recently to actually have tanks rolling right up to the Capitol like that. So I would say probably not. Leave it to the airplanes only flying over, because that doesn't require anything to be changed, and just leave it at that. And even honestly, do you even really need that? But I'm not against it. But Enforcer, what say you?
I would say, to be honest, like, speaking on the whole birthday thing, like, the birthday of the Army isn't really a thing to have a giant parade over, like, just being honest. Like, it seems more like it's for someone else's birthday, you know what I mean? Because I don't ever think there's been a major parade held for the birthday of the Army. Let me go pull up the birthday of the U.S. Army. It's June 14th. So, with that in mind right there, Matthew, why in the world, if we were going to hold a giant parade, why in the world would we not hold it on the 4th of July instead of June 14th?
Well, I think you know the answer.
Yeah. So if the parade was being held on June 14th and not the 14th of July, or the 4th of July, I'd say hell no, and that's stupid and very narcissistic. If it was being held on the 4th of July as a thing for the public, then I'd say, hey, that's not bad. I think that's pretty neat. But generally, I'm actually in the smaller group that would say that they're pretty neat. I like them. Like, I personally like, I'll let y'all know, I watch the Bastille Day parades all the way through, and I watch the Trooping of the Color all the way through, and I watch the Polish Independence Day parades all the way through, because I just like to look at their armed forces. I like to look at the nice uniforms, their combat uniforms, their dress uniforms, their equipment. It's neat, especially when they're really good at marching, like the British are at Trooping the Color. It's just incredibly interesting to watch. It's usually steeped in tradition and history of the units that are involved, a legacy of the nation. It's a really neat thing from that kind of perspective. So I like watching them for that reason. I mean, hell, I'll be entirely honest. Like, before the war in Ukraine broke out, I watched all of the Chinese military parades and the Russian military parades. Still do. The Russian ones, though, I always looked at them as a little bit stupid, because they always make their people smile in the parades. Like, I don't know if you've ever seen that, Matthew, but they're like, smile! And, like, people don't smile in Russia. So they're marching and going, and it's like, that looks so stupid. And also, like, their pomp is, like, really cheap. It's like WWE style pomp, really, for like their military parade. The Chinese are almost like machines in their parades. It's a little interesting how they like portray their army almost as a machine of the government, which is really supposed to put the public in fear as much as it's supposed to put everyone else around the world in fear. But it's always interesting to watch their parades. But as far as our Western military parades go, like the ones in France, Britain, and Poland, just as examples, I think they're really cool, and I like watching them. So also, someone said North Korean parades. Nah, I don't watch those. There's no point. Like
I
yeah,
love watching those because it's always something stupid happening in it. Like the Kim Jong Un's either like getting way too giddy about somebody chopping blocks with their hands or something like that, or something's going on. Like those are actually hilarious to watch.
Man, honestly, man, like I don't watch like the full parades though. I only watch like clips of those, like little clips. I don't watch the full things because the full ones are just so lame, dude. Like they'll have like 10 tractors driving through the square with guys holding AKs like hanging off of them, and they'll be like, "These are revolutionary soldiers of the Great Choo-Ching Revolution that will kill all the American imperialists." It's like they're on tractors. It's like they're on tractors with AKs. It's like this. I can't take this seriously.
Yeah. Honestly, the only thing out of North Korea I will not watch is their public missile executions. That's the one thing I usually like change the channel on when that comes on. I don't want to see that.
Man, I've heard that usually the ratings rocket through the roof though on those.
I've heard that they have a captive audience.
Man, I've heard that they actually are apparently they can't take their eyes off the screen.
I've heard that their ratings are going through the floor over this one. People said they don't like it's a little too spicy on the spicy side.
Bro, I heard that when North Korea puts those on, they really pull out the big guns for the viewership.
I heard when they put that on, it's like a family affair. The uncle's even involved.
Man, Unk is involved and he's getting lit up.
Man.
Like,
Hey, Unc, go over there and go check out that center of town. And Kim said, hey, you got the button?
man, I heard, man, when they have an execution extravaganza, it's all lit up.
Honestly, though, like all jokes aside, though, like the savagery that goes on with that kind of executions, like especially like executing family members that the Kim dynasty does is just insane. And if they can't put them to death by a missile execution in the center of town, then they'll go and smear some VX on their face in an airport in some Malaysia or some remote place like that. So it's just the savagery and the just absolute just like a lack of like caring for even family members in the Kim dynasty is just insane.
Bro, you know what the old saying is: when a new comes in power, you gotta get Unk. like you just gotta get him. But anyways, with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
All right, so our next super chat goes to Point of Guinness, who puts in a $10 donation, and thank you, Point of Guinness, for that support once again. And this one says, booms away, and give one to the chat, or give two booms away, booms away.
Hey, booms away. Booms away. It's not a bomb, it's a boom. But I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this even possible, Points of Guinness. And, Point of Guinness. And we will make sure to give one to the chat in your honor, Point of Guinness. And so, Matthew, what do we got?
All right, so the live chat question goes to Lawrence Todd. He said, Matt, please explain to the crowd that embargoes are bigger than tariffs. Honestly, Lawrence, I would argue that a 125% combined tariff on China, that is essentially the equivalent of an embargo, in my opinion. That is basically what that is. It's going to basically stop trade coming from China into the United States. And with China increasing their tariff to somewhere around 87% reciprocal on the United States in retaliation, that's going to essentially stop trade going to China for the most part as well. So I believe, if I have my history correct, I'm not huge on history. I believe that's what led Japan to actually go in and bomb Pearl Harbor. Is we had an embargo on Japan over something. I can't remember exactly what it was, but the Enforcer is probably going to explain it here in a second. But Enforcer, what say you?
So we put an embargo on Japan because they were really like hostile and violent, and they were kind of making it clear that they wanted to kill Americans at some point in the future and take the Philippines, which was our territory at the time. So we were like, wow, y'all are kind of like a little bloodthirsty and aggressive, and y'all are killing all these Chinese people in great numbers, especially in Nanjing, which used to be called Nanking. All of y'all know what happened there. It's a pretty commonly known thing. So we were like, wow, y'all are some real bastards. We're going to embargo American oil. Have fun starving. And it was only on oil, by the way. It was just an embargo on oil sales. So there was no oil sales allowed to the Empire of Japan from that point on. But because we cut off their precious oil, they decided that they had to act aggressively and swiftly to break this deadlock that they were, well, this slow death they were about to go into. So then, I think it was just a few years later, they then attacked the United States, the Philippines, Pearl Harbor, and also Guam, I think simultaneously, and started off World War II for the United States of America, at least.
Yeah. So that would explain it. So it seems honestly kind of analogous to the current situation, like that we have with China. It's almost pretty close to being very, very similar to it. So it makes you wonder: is China going to go as far as what Japan did? Because of course we're in a time of world tensions right now, not just China and the trade war, but also, for example, the Middle East with Iran, Russia, and Ukraine, and other countries as well. So there's a lot of stuff going on at one time, and in the midst of all that, you have this trade war situation, which is very harkening back to the time where there was an embargo on Japan when they ultimately attacked us with Pearl Harbor. So it seems kind of close.
It does seem like it's getting kind of close there. So my answer to that question would be it's possible. But as far as an embargo or a tariff being worse, I would have to be with Matthew. When tariffs get this insanely high, it's practically an embargo on trade. It's making it impossible to really justify purchasing any goods that would have to be imported from China. So with that, I hope that does address that well. Also, another thing that might be of interest to y'all is that Japan doesn't have a lot of agricultural land. Not enough to support its population that it currently has. A lot of its food is actually imported from overseas. Y'all might find that interesting, because I always found that interesting on Japan. But you know, another thing that's interesting is that this is Mount Fuji, which is the famous mountain in Japan. Look at it. Whoa.
Looks nice. It looks like Seattle. Is that what you're about to say?
You knew it, buddy. You knew it. Also, this is what it looks like in the summer, by the way.
Interesting. It looks like the Johnny Quest volcano that those guys came out with saucers on.
Turu! But, man, look at that. But you know what's crazy, man? This thing is only like 12.7 thousand feet tall, man. Over here in the west coast of the United States, here in America, we have this mountain called Mount Shasta. This thing is 15,600 feet tall.
Mount Shasta. I kind of like that.
Man, look at that. That's actually really pretty.
Yeah, I like that. I like those trees right there. Whatever those trees are, like what is that? Deciduous or like
Evergreens.
furious or something like that? Oh, evergreens. Yeah.
Yeah, they're evergreens, man. They stay green forever. Like that's what they call it, evergreen. Oh, look at that.
Now that's pretty nice right there. That's like a good screensaver type material right there.
Dude, that is actually pretty cool. But this mountain's actually quite a good bit taller than that of Mount Fuji. And another interesting thing, golly, is Mount Hood. Nope, this is not a Hood review, but Mount Hood actually looks better to me than Mount Shasta. Like, that actually looks really nice, doesn't it? Right.
It looks. I mean, I think Mount Shasta looks better, honestly. And you don't have to worry about anybody sliding on this mountain. Like this mountain's going to stay nice and steady.
Dude, this mountain said, I pull up, and then drive by. Like, man, but honestly, man, that mountain, man, I feel like there's a Ricola factory hidden somewhere inside of the base of that mountain.
Yeah, I feel like that if the tariffs get really bad on Switzerland, I feel like the Toblerone bear might jump on a plane and like set up shop here.
Man, honestly. Also, by the way, man, the Timberline Lodge, which is the hotel that they used in a lot of the filming for The Shining, actually is at the base of Mount Hood. Let me see if I can get a picture of it here from like an external drone angle, maybe. Oh, I can't. Well, that's what the inside looks like, at least.
Interesting. Also, someone said it's a conifer. I think that was the word I was looking for, by the way. Thank you, Array, for that.
It is a conifer.
Ooh, what the hell is that food?
What the hell is what food? Oh, that's just dog
Oh,
food.
it's meat, and it's dog pate or something. Honestly, that does not look very good. I'll be honest with you.
No, that does not look good. Let's see here, man. There's got to be... Honestly, man, it's kind of crazy that just exists at the bottom of Mount Hood. What does the road look like out here? You know, like, I'm curious in that. What does the road to this place look like? Dude, this is like the most Yogi Bear looking road I've ever seen. This looks like it comes straight out of an episode of Yogi Bear. No joke.
Man, just so clean. Like, this is just so clean looking. Also, I don't know what it is, but the roads look so like, wait a minute, is that government camp? Do you see that? It says government camp right there.
Oh my God. Oh my God, it's true. They're putting them in camps. Oh, wow. Dude, look at this.
Wow. This was supposed to be government in name only, because nothing government looks like this.
Man, that's where that Fed money went. It went into this one town right here, a government camp. This is a really nice town, by the way. Where's the mountain? It's got to be back there, right? I can't see it from here. Oh, dagnabbit. You can't see it. But that is a nice little place right there. It's surrounded by mountains and beautiful trees. But let's see. Okay, so we went to Mount Hood. Now, It's time to go to Mount St. Helens. Yeah, let's go. Let's go. Freaking desolation and destruction for decades. Look at that. Holy moly. Absolutely blew its top off. Blew its top off just like the hot dog man and never recovered. Look at that, Matthew. Isn't that sad?
Oh man, $2,000 and the mountain might not blow.
Oh man, give me 2K and it might blow. I don't know. Yeah, I don't like.
If this thing does erupt, would they just change the name to Mount Helens and take the Saint part out? Because I don't see saints like destroying places.
Nah, man, they just changed the whole thing from Mount St. Helens to oh great heavens. It's just named that forever.
The huge manatee.
Dude, actually, this looks really nice, actually.
Man, that's not too bad looking, honestly.
But
it's always nice around volcanoes, because of that, like, really good fertile ground because of the ash or whatever like that. It always looks real, like, luscious around a volcano.
Yeah, it really does. And now it's time for the piece de la resistance that everyone's been talking about the whole time I've been moving my way up. Y'all knew it was coming to this. Mount Rainier. Probably the prettiest looking mountain of all of them. I would say even prettier than Mount Shasta.
I would just love to, like, get one of those, like, whatever that RV is called. Y'all know what I'm talking about. It's like the 6x6 RV, the off-roading type. It's got like the Mercedes truck front into it. And it's got that huge box in the back. It's like it's not really a military truck. It's like a European style, like, military truck looking thing. I would love to drive that, like, right up in here. That would be so cool. Do a stream from it. That would even be sicker.
Man, it just hit me, Matthew. Did you ever play Red Dead Redemption 2?
No.
You saw me playing it, though, and I showed you that, like, area up near the mountain on the map, right?
I think so.
I'm fairly certain they based it off of Mount Rainier, man, because look at that field. That is just gorgeous, man.
Yeah, that honestly, it really does look good, honestly. It really does.
Man, I'm telling you, dude, this is where the Ricola factory's at. If it's anywhere, it's around here.
That really does look good.
Man, the natural beauty around this, the Washington coast, it's insane. Like, it really is insane. Even just normal stuff looks really good because of how the environment is, or the ecosystem that exists up there. It's just a wildly gorgeous place. Look at that.
That does look like really, actually, I really do like that, actually. That is nice.
Man, he really does like that, and it is nice. What the hell is this?
Also, by the way, pull this up while you're thinking about it. Pull up the Mercedes-Benz Zetros 6x6 off-road expedition RV.
How the hell do you look at this and think of a Mercedes, man? Like, I am so confused. Mercedes what? A Zetros?
Zetros 6x6 off-road RV.
Off-road RV. Off-road RV. This?
Yeah, that right there.
Sick.
That's what I think. When I see, like, Mount Shasta or something, I think this thing, up a trail, go as high as you can on the mountain.
This thing is sick, honestly. This is actually pretty cool. I really like this one. Like in that tannish color.
That is cool. Yeah, I like these a lot. I like that truck, like, front end right there. I'm not sure if I don't think that's native to the United States, but it's pretty neat.
Honestly, man, that thing can kind of, like, bend, too.
Yeah, look at that, man. The whole, like, yeah, that's actually pretty cool.
Yeah, that is actually pretty neat. I would like to have one of these. It's just that they cost too much, and tax season's here. We can tell. We can tell because of reasons. But oh, look at this little building. Look at that. Where in the world is that?
I'm not sure. Also, Activist said Matthew's idea of natural beauty. LOL. Here's my thing. The natural beauty will look good for like 5 minutes until you get bored, and then you're like, okay, like that looks nice. I would like to sit here and look at it for a little bit longer, but I gotta have something to do, like, rather than just stare at the mountain. So it's like, that's where the truck comes in.
Man, honestly, man, I could sit around and look at that water.
Oh man, honestly, when I see this water right here, I think get an industrial grade Caterpillar, like, pump. And
start bottling this
right
shit.
Here next to it, and bottle it and sell it.
Start bottling
this.
I'm
joking,
now.
By the way. Someone's gonna be like, "You want to destroy nature for bottled water?"
Dude, someone's about to start cussing us out for a joke. I promise you, man. It's coming, like, in 2 minutes flat. But there's also another really pretty place around here, not Mount Rainier, but it's up here. The mountains aren't as big, but this is the Olympic National Park, and I was actually wanting to go here while I was there, but it was still the winter season, so they had the whole thing closed. But there was one spot I wanted to drive to, and it's up here somewhere. And let's see. It's up here, right here. This is where it was. The Hurricane Ridge Visitor Center. I wanted to go here and take a picture of this to show all of y'all. It looks so pretty, and all of the pictures that they had. Why, look at that, dude. That's literally like the Swiss Alps.
Yeah, I like that. Honestly, I'd like to see that in person at some point.
Bro, and then you got like, the sickly
that's
deer.
got the mange.
Bro, that thing's got like that wasting disease. But man, what
man, absolutely wasting.
Oh man, just like my channel. Oh man, I'm really cooked. It's over. It's so over. This is just there's another one. This one isn't wasting though. This one's healthy.
What's up with these like deer up here in this area or something like that? They all have like that really bulbous snout, like that like southern deer don't have. Like southern deer are very lean, like in the snout. These deer have like some huge snouts.
Dude, every single one of them looks like they have their nose sneered up like that one meme where it's like, "Where's my mom?" You know, like that one. Like it's like it all of them have that face. Oh, look
That's
at that.
a thick deer.
Dude, they're not scared of anyone.
Yeah, they're probably look at that. They're just like hanging out around everybody. That's wild.
Yeah, they're just chilling. I bet you they got like Lyme disease or something, man. I would not touch them. But man, I would love to have gone and seen this place. And you know what? You know what, folks? Matthew had his little RV moment, so I gotta have my little train moment here. I want to get on a freaking Amtrak Cascades and actually ride it. I wanted to do that on my Seattle trip, and I never got the chance. But I wanted to get. Let me get a good picture of this thing. Let me get a good picture of it. I'll put it on screen anyways for now, just so y'all see what I'm looking at. I wanted to get on one of these.
Oh, yeah, I'm just dying to get on one of those.
Man, well, if you saw the interior, man, it's not that bad, man. It's actually better than normal Amtrak, man. Shit, man, for real. Let me see if I can find the Amtrak Cascades. Yeah, I think
the Amtrak Crapcades?
Talgo inside. This is what the inside of the Talgo cars look like. Isn't that nice?
That looks like first class. Everybody's wearing a suit.
Dude, every class on the Cascades is business class at minimum.
Oh, really?
Yes.
So they're important or something.
Yeah, and look at their buffet. Well, not really their buffet, but their cafe car. Isn't that sick, dude? That's actually like classy, actually.
Yeah, honestly, this looks rather posh. Like this red upholstery and this guy with his arm all over the red upholstery. This is very posh.
Dude, honestly, man, I honestly think, man, ridership on Amtrak trains would increase if all of them had a little bit of like a posh look like this to them. I think a lot of people would want to ride them.
It probably would. And also if the employees are like, "Oh, hey, how are you?" instead of, "Yeah, sit down." That would probably help.
Hey, how are you doing? It's my first time on a train. Sit down. Like it's just shut up. Where's your ticket? But oh yeah, look at that. Look at that right there, Matthew. The pictures.
Can we get a Talgo in the chat? Man, these foamers, I'll tell you what.
Can we get a Talgo in the chat? Dude, honestly, man, the Talgo sets are the bomb. Like, I think they're just great. They're so cool. And also, like, they're like low profile, man. They're so low slung to the tracks. It's like a little car almost, like a really long car that a lot of people sit in. Really neat.
Yeah, it's neat for what it is. It's definitely kind of neat.
But then you have this thing on the back, which kind of ruins it.
Oh, that's the duck.
Bro, they call that thing the man, it's a little rough, man. But I like to ride one of these things. They always look nice, and I just like to experience it for myself. But anyways, we bored y'all enough with that. Let's see. And a lot of people are dissing on Amtrak. Don't diss on Amtrak. They just need more money. They just need more money. They need more money.
More money. I'm trying more like scam track.
Legalize Amtrak. Legalize.
Yeah. Oh man. Also, I don't like those tariffs. Oh, shut up.
Oh man, like honestly, man, I just wish that Amtrak would be given more money. Like they can't keep dissing on it because it's not profitable. Because they literally took every non-profitable rail route in America and then threw it to Amtrak and said, "Here you go, have fun." It's like they're never going to be profitable. So like at least with the hamstring they're getting right now. So it's like give them more money. They will do better because they will actually be able to afford to do better. And then people will ride. Because right before the pandemic, dude, I'm not even kidding, man. 2019, they had their highest ridership numbers ever in history. Like, ever since Amtrak was created, the ridership numbers were the highest in 2019. And they broadcasted that in 2020, for the first time ever in Amtrak's history, they actually were going to be profitable. And then the Wuhan Whirlybird happened, and it completely destroyed that. So now they're not going to be profitable probably until the end of this decade. So it was absolutely a shame, man, because it's like they were actually about to become profitable. They were actually somehow going to turn everything around. It's an impossible story for Amtrak to win. Like, if y'all knew the cars that were stacked against them, there really is no way for them to win. And somehow, some way, they actually were going to eke out a couple of, I think it was like a couple of dozen $1 million of profit in 2020 if the year had gone normally, and they didn't get to do it. And so now everyone's still acting like, oh, Amtrak's a failure. It's like, no, it's like it actually can work. Even with those stupidly ridiculous long distance trains that never make money, they somehow are going to make money. So they're like,
You know
there's
what you
proof of the
sound like?
pudding.
You sound like those people before the Concorde like got shelved because of all the problems it was having and also how unprofitable it was. You sound like those people that tried to like defend the Concorde, even though like the thing would literally burn so much fuel before it even took off. It was literally losing money before it left the airport.
Dude, the Concorde was a waste of money though. Like there's no way around that. That's like everyone knew it was a waste of money. That's why they wanted to get rid of them. That's why when one of them crashed, they just got rid of all of them and used it as an excuse. But with Amtrak though, man, it's not like the Concorde, where the Concorde was losing more and more money with every year it aged. Amtrak actually can make money. Like, it was so close to doing it, man, in 2020. It was just right there. Like, if the whole pandemic thing had not happened, they would have made money. And then it happened, and then it screwed them over. So if we just gave them some more money and we just allowed them to expand their routes, I think honestly, man, the biggest thing that would help Amtrak is that we actually eminent domained, or not really eminent domain, that's a little aggressive, offered to buy the trackage from all of these major class 1 railroads like CSX and BNSF and all of them. And we actually got the tracks that Amtrak's used, and it was owned and operated by Amtrak. I think that would help out things a lot more.
Yeah, you know what we could do is if you became the president, what you could do is this, and they're going to do this before you become the president, so I don't think you'll be able to make the decision. But the land that China's bought up around the United States through their Chinese companies that came here and bought it for the purpose of their company, when actually it's the CCP that actually bought the land, and they're buying land right next to sensitive military facilities, is the government can take that land back and either through eminent domain or some other legal operation like that, take that land back. They can sell the land and then give the money to Amtrak to keep running. And China can basically fund our new Amtrak.
Huh. That's an interesting idea. I like that. I like that idea. But you know, and then also, man, another thing, it's like Brightline in Florida has shown that passenger rail is profitable. Like it actually does. It can work, and you can make it high speed, well, higher speed, where it gets up to like 125 miles an hour. It can be done, and they can make money. So it's like, if they can make money, if we just allowed Amtrak to actually build out their own trackage or buy the trackage they needed to get their trains up to 120 miles an hour over most of the country, just at like, this is like basic like stepping stones here, over most of the country, and they were able to create and eliminate routes, create routes that would make money, eliminate routes that were never going to make money. They were able to streamline themselves to actually become the American railroad of the future. They could become profitable easy, lickety split. It wouldn't even take any effort. It just takes them not hamstringing them, because also here's a hamstringing. Amtrak is required to service the states it services. So the Empire Builder cannot stop running. Like, and also, by the way, I hate like the idea of like these old like legacy rail routes like getting killed off, like the Empire Builder, the California Zephyr, and like the Southwest Chief and everything. But at the same time, they're never going to be profitable again. So, you know, it's kind of a sad reality that to make Amtrak survive, they have to be knocked off. Problem is that they can't be knocked off because the Congress members, because the government has a large operating stake has a large operating stake in Amtrak, states that Amtrak must provide service to their constituents. So Amtrak has to run a train through North Dakota, and they have to run a train through Montana, although there's nobody living there that's even going to really ride that train in large enough numbers where it's always turning a profit. So Amtrak's hamstrung that way by loads of routes. The Coast Starlight actually is a viable route, and a lot of the long-distance routes in the East Coast itself are very viable, but the ones that are the cross-country ones that start in Chicago and end somewhere like Seattle or San Francisco or LA, they are just not doable anymore. They just make loads of waste. And so if you got rid of those, Amtrak would become profitable largely overnight, because that's where a lot of the money's being just thrown into a pit for the large part at this point. But that's my opinion, you know. But anyways, I see Matthew in the chat. He's sitting there putting out his own propaganda. I'm putting out mine. I'm like, Amtrak is good. Matthew's like, Amtrak's bad, and it needs to go.
Honestly, Amtrak does need to be shelved, honestly. It's not a money problem. It's a management problem, because Brightline is doing such a better job, because I know you're talking about they have some like congressional mandated things in Amtrak. And I think it's just a management problem, honestly. Like when you put things in charge of, like, for example, a quasi-government, quasi-private company type situation like that, you're going to have the bad side of the bureaucracy of the government weighing in on something like Amtrak. It's doomed from the start. Like it's hard to repair something like that once it gets bad. Like, for example, the post office. That's why they're talking about privatizing it, because once it gets bad and it's a quasi-government operation like the post office or Amtrak, it's like nearly impossible to recover it without changing the entire structure of how the things run. At that point, you might as well create a brand new company at that point.
Okay, but then here's my counter to that. I'm not against seeing I'm all for passenger rail, but I don't really care how it ends up appearing. What if we made the railroad companies that exist in the present day provide rail services like CSX and Norfolk Southern? We got rid of Amtrak, but those companies had to provide rail service in their territory to the people living there. Like, not all over the place, not like a train running from nowhere to nowhere, but, trains that actually would have population numbers and profitability significant enough to run one, those would have to be run. And those railroad companies could get subsidized by the government to run them if they weren't able to make them entirely profitable all the time. So that way that public transportation service was provided by a private company that largely would have some sort of incentive to upkeep a reputation or something along those lines.
Maybe so. Maybe so.
Yeah, I would say so. And also, someone Torrance said Amtrak provides connections to poor places. No, they're not really poor. I mean, like the Midwest, well, the West really, because the Midwest is actually right here. The West isn't really poor. I mean, really a lot of the places that Amtrak stops aren't really poor. Really, Amtrak stops at a lot of major cities that could be considered wealthy. Let me go to the service map here and show you all that. Not now, the Amtrak network. Here we are. So this is the big old Amtrak network, and it crosses the whole country. But here's the thing that just is annoying, that doesn't make any sense. Like, you have the major cities of Alabama, which are Birmingham, Huntsville. Huntsville's actually our biggest one now. So you have Huntsville, Birmingham, Montgomery, and Mobile. And right now, in the state of Alabama, only one of our 4 major cities is serviced by rail. So if you're from the other 3 major cities, you just have to drive by car. There's no option to take a train to another big city. If you're in Birmingham, you can't go to any of the other 4 major cities in Alabama by rail. You can go to Anniston, which is a non-existent city in eastern Alabama, or you can go to Tuscaloosa, which is a fairly sizable city in Alabama, but there's not really a lot there. And, not a lot of people are going to be taking that commute from Birmingham to Tuscaloosa. And not only that, there's only 1 train per day going in either direction. So if you want to go to Tuscaloosa, you have to wait for that 1 train to show up at like 12 in the middle of the day to then take the hour trip to Tuscaloosa. And then if you want to go back from Tuscaloosa to Birmingham, you have to wait for the train the next day at about 11:30 or so to take you east to Birmingham. There's hardly any actual trains running that line. That makes no sense. Or better yet, because Alabama really isn't a good example. There's not a big population here. There's only about 5.5 million people in the state. Take a place like North Carolina, where there actually is a decent amount of rail service. A good amount of that rail service is being expanded right now because there actually is a market for it, and there's a lot of ridership for that service. So it makes sense for Amtrak to expand this out. That's why North Carolina's rail trackage that you're seeing right here, Matthew, is so dense, is because for some reason North Carolinians are huge into railroads in their state for some reason. North Carolina actually has its own trains. Let me see if I can show these to you. Yeah, North Carolina by train. Let me see. Yeah, here we go. They have their own train service actually in North Carolina.
Yeah, it's kind of interesting. I didn't know they had that.
Yeah, actually, a good amount of states have started to make their own state rail lines, kind of like state operated rail lines, because, well, this is like technically like a branch of Amtrak, but still largely run by North Carolina itself, because there is a lot of demand for rail service. But once again, Amtrak is so hamstrung by not being profitable, and, whenever they get money from the government, they're having to just throw it at stuff they haven't really been able to pay for a while. These states are largely having to try and do their own thing. That's why Brightline's the one building that high-speed corridor from Los Angeles to Las Vegas, and I think up to San Francisco too, instead of, say, Amtrak, which could also do it, or Caltrain, which could do it as well. Have you ever heard of Caltrain? Because Caltrain is a state-run Californian train system that has very nice modernized rolling stock. I mean, they use European Stadler flirts, which are pretty cool.
Yeah, I've never heard of it, but it looks pretty modern.
Yeah, it's pretty nice. They also have like their older American rolling stock, the Baby Bullets. I think these are like F-59s. Someone's gonna correct me if I'm wrong. And they also have their bi-level cars, which are pretty common all over the place. But California has their own trains, and this is part of their service map around the San Francisco, Santa Clara area. It's a pretty big like service area. And then you have Metrolink down in LA, and then you have a whole bunch of others up other places. Like I think, well, the state of Washington has the Cascades, but that's an Amtrak brand directly. But Caltrain is actually run and funded by the state of California.
Now that is really a good thing right there.
Yeah. But anyways, I'm probably running Matthew into the ground. I'm probably talking his ear off at this point. So we want to make sure to get to some more questions here. So what do we got, Matthew?
All right, so into our next super chat. This one goes to Butchie777, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Butchie, for that support very much. And we do appreciate that, Butchie. And I do not see a comment attached, but we appreciate that. And Enforcer, what say you?
I got to thank you so much for the support, because while you didn't throw in a comment, we are greatly appreciative of it, because folks like you help us to keep this thing running and make this thing possible. So a massive thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Mr. Biscuit, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Mr. Biscuit, for that 10. They said, love your work. And if China were to invade Taiwan, what do you think Australia's involvement would be?
Can you reread that one again? Can you reread that?
They said, I love your work. You're going to love my nuts. No, I added that part. But they said, if China were to invade Taiwan, what do you think Australia's involvement would be?
Australia probably wouldn't get involved in much of a direct way. It probably would cause them to be at a heightened level of alert in the military, but they would never get involved directly, because Australia doesn't have an ability to power project. Australia's military is more so related to national defense purposes. At least with how their Navy, Air Force, and Army has been structured. So with that, I hope that does address it the best I can. And I thank you once again for support and helping this channel to keep on rolling. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And the next one goes to Khan LSA, who puts in a $10 donation. And thank you very much, Khan, for that support. They said, sadly, I think you will not survive your cough. We have a lunatic in charge of the healthcare. And please don't catch the brainworms. It'll only get worse after that.
Thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And I don't think I can make a comment on the other part. That sounds very political, but I do thank you for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And hopefully I will get over the cough eventually. And so with that, thank you once again. And we are on to the next one.
Thank you very much for the kind words. I appreciate it very much. And of course, remember to take your tallow. But anyways, moving on to our next one here. This one goes to Exotic Parallel, who puts in a 7. And he said, what does Ukraine need to do to reclaim every inch of Ukraine? How likely is it? And what needs to take place? And what increases that likelihood?
It's highly unlikely that they would be able to at this point, because although they are making ground, the amount of ground they're making compared to what they would need to retake is incredibly small. So what they would have to do is that they would have to continue to hope that crippling sanctions, as well as Ukrainian bombing campaigns, destroy the Russian economy, and the Russian Federation just goes into a complete national collapse due to the economic situation. Then in the chaos, they're able to wipe the Russians off the field and retake the ground. The chances of that happening right now are fairly slim. That might take another year or two, or maybe even longer at this point than was originally anticipated. But I hope that does address that somewhat well, and I think it wants to give us support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Andrew Honeycutt, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Andrew, for that support. He said, those penguins and those seals have been mooching off of us too long, and it's about time they pay. LOC all the way. I'm glad the Enforcer is on the mend.
Hey, and thank you so much for being glad that we're on the mend. And, you know, those penguins have had it too good for too long, you know, walking around in those suits that they wear. They are a little bit too wealthy. We got to get them down to just being, you know, not wearing anything. No suits. No suits. But still,
You know why they said they did that? They said they did that to make sure there weren't any loopholes in the tariffs. It's like loopholes is in what? It's like, what do you think the Chinese are going to link up with the penguins and use them to like shuttle stuff like into like foreign countries or something to get around the tariffs? It's like I really doubt that's going to happen.
the penguins are going to pop up an intermodal port overnight and start processing everyone's shipments like Singapore or something. It's like, I don't even know what the point of that was. I honestly think that was literally just like someone went down the list and that got on it, and then they just tariffed it, and it didn't even make any sense to do that. But anyways, with that, I hope that does address it well. I think he wants to give her support, and with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and our next one is going to go to, let's see here. This one goes to Danny B. It is Chef Danny B once again, and thank you very much, Danny, for that $20 support and also helped me keep the channel running. He said, "Good evening, enforcers. Chef Danny here. Sorry I've been MIA the last couple of days. I'm at a crossroads with my business and a restaurant, and I'm thinking about stepping down as head chef at the social house." What? Danny, you're going to walk away from the social house? What? Like, honestly, though, like between the business and the restaurant, I got to say, running your own business, it does have its downsides because obviously all the weight's on you at that point. But at the same time, the freedom of being able to run the business, that's also a beautiful thing in itself. But it's a good decision to have to make. Honestly, a pretty good dilemma to be in. But Enforcer, what say you?
I have to say, very interesting crossroads you're in for sure. But still, I got to say, that's a decent reason to be missing in action for. It's a hard decision to make, and I don't want to be one to even recommend a course of action because I don't know all of the specific details. But there is a good amount of ups and downs to running your own business. But there's also a good amount of ups and downs on continuing to work at a place like the Social House. Although I'm not a cook, I do know what it's like to work for other people. And there's some nice things for working for other folks, but there's also a good amount of bad things to come with. The same as working on your own. But I wish you the best of luck, and let us know what decision you make and how it goes. But still very interesting to hear that, Danny B. And I'm glad to have you here tonight. And I thank you for supporting the channel and helping this thing to keep on running as well, because you are the head chef of the Lee Spring Army without a shadow of a doubt. And so with that, thank you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
You know, the weird thing about it is no matter if you're employed or self-employed, you'll always have a boss. And you know, when you're self-employed, if you're running your stuff the way you should be running it, your new boss basically becomes fear because you're always a little bit in fear that it could all fall apart at any second. That's one thing that you don't really have on your back when you're working for somebody, because of course, when you're working for somebody, you show up, you clock in, you do your part, and then you generally leave. But when you're working for yourself, your hours are not set. And whenever you need to show up, that's when you got to show up. So there's honestly like ups and downs to both of them. And some people think, oh, well, when you're self-employed, you automatically make more money. No, that's not necessarily true either, because, you know, you got to pay higher taxes then, and you got a bunch of expenses you got to tend to as well. And also, if there's a loss, you're taking that loss usually yourself, unless you're in business with somebody else. So it's just it's a push and pull. There's honestly positives and negatives to both of them. It's not like, you know, being the boss is like, oh, I finally made it. Most people that, you know, glorify being self-employed like that, they don't know what it really involves. And they find out later, and then they're like, well, actually, I didn't actually have it too bad when I was working somewhere, actually. So it's kind of interesting. But nonetheless, I digress. And I move on to our next one here, which goes to Antonius Pius, who puts in a 20. And thank you very much, Antonius or Antoninus, for that support. Appreciate that. And they said, I just tuned in, and maybe someone answered. Earlier, the lights on the ends of the helicopter rotor blades weren't lights, but an atmospheric effect. Forgot what it's called. Probably like a self-induced St. Elmo's fire.
I thank you for support, Antonius Pius. And I think I was speaking about that a little bit in my own like layman's way. I was like, look, you know, like there's lights on the rotor blades in these pictures. Maybe it's the same thing that's happening here. So I didn't know it would probably possibly even be called St. Elmo's fire, but maybe it was, because it looked fairly similar to me. And I'm very convinced that that was most likely a Russian helicopter getting shot at by Russian ground air defense forces. But I do thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep running, and throwing in your 2 bits on that as well. Because I think that that's a very close answer to it, if we have any at this point. But still, a huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that does address that well. And we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Leora Abigail, who puts in the 5. And this is Leora's super chat right here. She put in that 5 and said, filling up my coffee, not snow coffee, LOL, and my say mug.
Hey, and I love to hear it. And that was the super chat we read off earlier on accident for KWJ. But I do thank you for the support. And that was a shout to give it away. We'd love to hear that you're drinking coffee not made of snow in your LSA mug. I got an LSA mug sitting on my desk right now. And it's great to hear that you have one as well. Very nice indeed. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that has addressed that incredibly well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right. And our next one goes to Buddy, V2, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Buddy. They said, will you ever make your Ukrainian war events a map available for others to view?
It's always available for others to view. It's in the link in the description below. Every single day, you can go view it. Every single one of them that I've ever made. So with that, I thank you for the support, and we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ryguy SR, who puts in the 5 and says, keep up the great work, Enforcer Matt. God bless our vets and the great nation, and LSA and Slava Ukraine.
Hey, and thank you so much for the kind words and the support. And I'm just trying to keep on running. And long live the Lee Spring Army. The Lee Spring Army will never die. And long live the Republic. And a huge thanks to you so much once again. Hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Plazoth, who puts in the 4. And thank you, Plazoth, as well. They said, can you look at the VZ9 Avro car? It's weird. Honestly, the Avro car was kind of cool. I don't think the thing was ever truly functional, like to the point where it's actually able to operate the way it was intended to. They always had to keep the thing strapped down, to my knowledge, except for maybe one test flight. But it was pretty neat looking. Just wasn't very practical.
It was pretty cool. They had an idea. They had a plan for this thing. If it actually worked, I think this is honestly kind of goofy, though, because it's like, if this thing ran into, like, say, just a Jeep with a machine gun, this thing's going to be made mincemeat out of pretty quick, with them being exposed in glass bubbles with only a recoilless rifle. It's like this was honestly doomed to fail, even if they put this thing into practice. But beyond that, though, it is a pretty neat little system. Look at it right there. Look at it, floating a little bit above the ground. These things are unique, but kind of one of those, like, failed oddities that just made it into a museum, and now they sit around and people go, wow, that's really cool that we even had something like that at some point, way back in the late 50s, no less. And you know what's crazier is that while they were making this in Canada, while they were making this in 1958, which is crazy to think about, this is the craziest thing to think about, there were still steam trains running, for the most part, in the United States when this thing was being tested. Like, that's honestly kind of, like, weird to think about, Matthew. It's almost like as weird as thinking when Abraham Lincoln was the president of the United States, samurai were still a thing in Japan.
That is honestly crazy when you think about it.
Yeah, that's just wild. Man, when Matthew says stuff like that, it's very deep. Like, but beyond that,
I have nothing to add. I'm just adding my 2 cents, my 2 bits, my two something.
It's something, but still, thank you for the support. I hope that has addressed that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to LSA Sergeant Figment, who puts in that 2 and says, LSA, hit the like button. That's an order.
Hey, and thank you so much for the support and helping this channel to keep on running. And hit the like button, folks. That is an order from none other than LSA Sergeant Figment, an absolute legend of the channel and a longtime sergeant of the Lee Spring Army. And so a huge thanks to you so much once again. And we are on to the next one.
And this one's going to go to Dubstep Kid 801. And thank you very much, Dubstep Kid, for that support once again and helping to keep the channel running. And guess what, Dubstep Kid? You're actually going to take us right into our live chat questions. That was the last super chat to address. And once again, huge shout out to everybody tonight for supporting the channel and helping to keep it running, because that is the main thing and actually the only thing that keeps these streams running every single night. And thanks to you, we can all do those. So we appreciate that. But it's now time for our Morse code decoders of the night. Tonight we had Cliff Simonson, Mark Hodges, Earl Bernew, Kevin J, Paul Schultz, David Millsaps, our Royal Fluffiness, Arabelle Garbo, Joni Dog, and Norm Pritchett. They said the Morse code reads, UFO over Moscow be going beep boop, beep boop, beep boop. LLT, LSA.
And ding, 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 ding. Shh, that's the sound of money. And y'all get that dead on the nail. That was the Morse code message of the night. I got to congratulate y'all greatly on getting that correct for the 1,141st day of the war, because y'all continue to get that right time and time again. Honestly, I ran out of ideas for the Morse code tonight, so I just put beep boop in different sequences throughout most of that Morse code to give it a little bit of padding. But y'all still got that correct all the way through, which is very impressive. And so with that, it is time for us to move on into some live chat questions. And we actually have a good amount of time tonight. So, what do we got, Matthew?
All right. So our first question is going to go to Cat Crazy, who says, "What do you think about Israeli military parades?" Oh, what do you mean by that question? What do you mean by that? Honestly, I'll say this: like I say about the U.S. military parades, it's just a military parade. I don't really find any distinction because it's Israeli. I don't really see anything different between an Israeli or a U.S. military parade. But Enforcer, what say you?
Let's take a look at them. Oh, they've had let's see. Oh, let's see. Yes. It seems like they've had a large amount of military parades.
It looks very patriotic.
It's very Israeli. Something about this, I don't know what it is. Makes me think it's Israel. Wouldn't have a clue. It's I think it's the soil. Yeah, I think it's the soil. It looks very Middle Eastern, like the soil does. It looks like it is in Israel. But beyond that, I really just couldn't tell you what really strikes me here in this picture is Israeli. But beyond that, military parades are not inherently dictator-like things. Like, I really don't like them when they're all thrown into that group because it's like, what is... One second. What is trooping the color? What is this? That's a military parade. The British have a military parade. They've had one for hundreds of years. The same one at the same time every single year. And nobody calls them a dictatorship because they're not. And then the
It doesn't
French...
look threatening though, does it? Like that British one right there actually looks quite. It almost looks like a ceremony or something, like the way it is. There's nothing really like imperialistic is not the right word. There's nothing really like menacing about this. It's just kind of like, oh look, it's like the old time British army like going at it again.
Well, it's not really old time. I mean, they have modern, assault rifles, like...
It just doesn't look as menacing China or Britain doing, or excuse me, China or Russia doing something like that. It just looks like kind of cartoonish. Not trying to offend the British, by the way, but it kind of just looks a little bit less militaristic.
But it's still a military parade.
I guess you could say in like name only.
Well, no, that's a military parade. That's literally a military parade. It's the
But
military
you see what I'm
on
saying,
parade.
though. It's not like a fierce parade. It's like a more friendly version.
No, it's a military. Like I don't really think you're I don't really think you're getting it. It's a military parade. These guys are marching around with loaded guns, fixed bayonets, up and down the street. That's a military parade. Like whether you think they're cute or not, I don't really think that matters too much because they have bayonet-tipped assault rifles that they're marching around with.
But if you put me in front of these guys, or you put me in front of the like Chinese military, I would say, oh, those British guys look friendly. But this like Chinese military does not look friendly, though. They look like they're going to probably come in and get me or something. Pomp and circumstance. That's what Ava Blue said. Honestly, that is what it is. It's like pomp and circumstance, and it has a lot of tradition to it. It's not just like straight up raw like military like killing power. Like when you look at this, you're not thinking, oh, these people are going to come in and like eviscerate a country. You look at them and think, oh, that's nice and stuff like that. Like it's the like traditional look and all that stuff. You don't think, oh, they're going to go in and like mow somebody down or something.
But I mean, it's the army. Like I'm getting a disconnect here from you because when we do things here in America, like for example, the Tomb of the Unknown Soldier, you don't look at them and go, oh, they kind of look a little cutesy, up in that like little blue suit there. Like no, they're like actual soldiers. It's like that's the military, that's the army right there.
It's just different. Like let me put it this way. The British military is not nearly as menacing as like other militaries around the world. Not saying that they don't have like the fighting ability in their system. It's just they don't look that way.
Well, I mean, the French have the Bastille Day parade. It's almost the same thing.
That one's kind of cutesy too.
So I'm not really getting this though. You're like warping my mind here. So a military parade is not a military parade to you if it involves the military, but you mentally find it cute. Then it's not a military parade.
Basically, yeah.
But it's a military parade. All of them are military parades.
That's fine, but it's kind of like cutesy.
Like that. Like is that cutesy? Like
now this looks a little bit more intimidating. Let's see here. But see, of course, you got the tanks rolling in and stuff like that. But then I will say, when you have like the soldiers like Britain has, like showing up in their traditional like coats and stuff like that, it's a lot different looking than this.
I don't think I'm getting this. Like I thought, like honestly, man, like it's such a disconnect. I'm really like I'm confused at this point. Like I'm not really getting what you're trying to say. Like so, if you dress up in a dress uniform, then it's not intimidating. It's not really a military
Not
parade if you're in a
necessarily a
dress
dress
uniform.
uniform. Is if you look at like, let's say you're talking about the army dress uniform or something like that. Pull that up real quick. The army dress uniform, like in formation, like in a parade style formation.
Well, hell, they hardly march anywhere at all, so it'd be hard to find that. Maybe
You
I
have to
can
have a picture
take
of
that
formation
picture.
somewhere. Yeah, like I will say this uniform right here. We really had to pull up a picture of the formation though, because like when you're just looking at three people, it doesn't look like much. Like it looks like kind of like nothing.
You're asking for something that doesn't really exist. Because
They might
it's
have it.
hard.
Oh, they've got it. They've got it. Let's see one. Now, see that right there. When you see that, you don't think, okay, that's cute. So you think, okay, these guys look like they mean business. Like if they're going in somewhere, like the uniform, the look, the like the entire composure of the people, it's not the same as like that traditional like British kind of look. Like the British looks kind of like a little bit more like fascination. This right here is not fascination. You know, these people are going to go in and F something up if they go somewhere. Like you just kind of get that feel by looking at them.
Well, you know, the British are like wearing their ceremonial dress uniforms when they do that parade. They're not wearing like their daily dress uniform, right? Like the British
Well, if you pull,
uniform looks
well,
like that.
give me the American equivalent of it then, like in the formation if they have that.
Let's see. The like this.
Well, I mean, yeah, but I mean that's
This?
the guard. Now, yeah, see, if it was like that, if it was like this right here or something, I'll be like, that's like the same, that's on par with what Britain's doing. This right here, if you saw them coming, you're like, okay, they're not really going to get me necessarily, but it's just like, it's a military, but it's not like they're super menacing or anything like that.
You know, they are involved in like loads of military parades, man. I mean, like then you're saying that every U.S. military parade that we've ever had, because they've been in all of them, they're jokes because these guys show up in them a lot, and there's a good amount of them.
I'm just saying, it's the look. It's like what they're putting forward. It's not whether or not they're actually good fighters or not. Like, obviously, the British can kick ass if they want to, but it's just the look that they put forward, like with certain things. Like when they go out there with their traditional British uniforms on, it does not look the same. It's like a Chinese, like menacing parade. It does not have the same look.
But
like, look at that Chinese parade right there. Was Xi Jinping riding the Bing Shiling Jeep right here? Like, click on that picture. Like, look at this one, the Bing Shiling Jeep. Looking at that right there, there's nothing cutesy about that. Like that looks like they're hell bent on killing people or something. They're hell bent on going and causing hell. When you look at the nicely dressed British like traditional guardsmen like that, you don't think the same thing. Like surely not.
Dude, that doesn't look intimidating at all, man. That looks like Timu Bing Chilling, like kind of like business going on here.
You don't find this you don't find that somewhat like, I'm not saying I'm scared of the Chinese. I'm saying like on the scale of like militaries and intimidation, this is more intimidating than the British.
Well, I mean, yeah, but that's because the trooping of the color is a dismounted foot infantry unit. This is naval rocket infantry. Like it's a kind of a different thing.
I don't think we're ever going to see eye to eye on this, but I did see that Horror Realm, who threw in a 3, by the way, and thank you for that support. They said, I agree, it looks like a pageantry and not a show of force. And once again, I'm not shading the British. I'm not trying to throw shade on the British and say that, I think they're a joke. Like I said, their fighting ability has nothing to do with how they portray themselves in a military parade, but it just doesn't have the same intimidation factor, in my opinion.
But yeah, I mean, but look at the, like, I can't be intimidated by the Chinese military, man. Like they march in step, but everyone does that if you go to a parade, and their uniforms are like the cheapest looking of cheap.
And look here's made in Canada. They're from Canada, by the way, who has connections to Britain. They said, I agree with Matt. Dress uniforms in parades make them look like a parade of clowns. I will say they don't look like clowns. I wouldn't go that far. Like, I wouldn't say they're clowns. In fact, I wouldn't say that at all. But they just look less intimidating than other militaries around the world. That's my only point, because I'm not trying to shade the British. I think their uniforms are quite sharp, actually. But it's just different. Like, y'all know what I'm talking about. I see people in the chat knowing what I'm talking about here. It's hard to describe, but you just know it when you see it.
Yeah, but I mean, like, look at that. Like, does that look intimidating?
Yeah, I'll be honest with you, it does.
Well, they're in their dress uniforms, and their dress uniform looks like a blue jumper suit, like a boiler suit, like they work as plumbers in the plumbers union.
I mean, I'll be honest with you, it looks more intimidating than the British.
I'm not getting it. Like, I'm not getting it. Like it doesn't have to do with anything intimidation at all. Like, I don't even know why I'm arguing on that level, because they're like,
On that
intimidation has nothing to do with something being a military parade or not. I mean, it's a military parade. If the military's involved in the parade and it's nothing but the military, it's a military parade.
Well, I mean, there's such thing as differing opinions, and I'm afraid mine is differing.
Well, yeah, but I mean, like we were saying, they have military parades here and there. You're like, well, they're not really military parades. And I'm like, well, how are they not? And then the only metric is, well, they're not intimidating enough. Like, I don't really know how that's supposed
That's
to be.
okay. I guess we can agree to disagree.
Well, yeah, but I don't even know how to move forward in the conversation from here. That's why I keep
Just move
sitting on it,
forward.
because, well, I don't know, rather than just skipping over the whole thing, how to move forward, because I'm like, I don't really know how to even say,
I can move
well,
on to the next super chat if you'd like.
yeah, that'd probably be good. So we're on to the next
Yeah,
one.
let's do that. This one goes to Trism666, who puts in a $50 donation. And thank you very much, Trism, for that $50 support, by the way. That is one of the largest super chats of the night, and we
Hey!
appreciate that very much. And Trism says, I miss the days of flyovers and some military presence, but in small amounts as just a regular part of holiday parades. And I remember so many Blue Angel and Thunderbirds flyovers from when I was a kid. And I think they were mostly recruitment displays and LSA.
Hey, and long live the Spring Army. And most of the time, any display of the military in public is done for recruiting purposes. Air shows are supposed to be a big recruiting thing, really. And the original Top Gun movie was actually a giant recruiting ad for the Navy back in the day. But we don't see those anymore at all, especially when I was growing up. We never saw any of that. You had to go to an air show to see something like that. Beyond that, you just never saw anything. So I would agree with you. I wish that kind of stuff would return a little bit, just so you could see that the tax dollars were at work and they were working. You know what I mean? But I do thank you so much for the massive support, Trism666, and helping this channel to keep on running. Because if it wasn't for folks like you, we wouldn't be able to make this thing possible and keep it rolling, so that we can continue to talk about the things that really matter, like what is a military parade. And so with that, thank you so much once again. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And we have another super chat. This one goes to Andrew Honeycutt, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Andrew, for that $10 support. And he said, democracies generally have military parades to commemorate solemn wartime events that acknowledge the sacrifices, and totalitarian regimes tend to glorify death, and it's a big difference in ideology.
And I thank you for the support, Andrew Honeycutt, but once again, how do we justify the Bastille Day parade then? Because France isn't glorifying death and demanding endless sacrifice for the Juche ideology of the great leader Emmanuel Macron. They're just having a military parade to have one. So are they a dictatorship that is worshiping death in a totalitarian state that doesn't allow for any kind of dissension, or not? And what about Poland? I mean, Poland has a huge military parades. Let me go pull those up. Let me go to the images here. So, Poland has absolutely massive military parades. Quite often. It's annually, of course, I believe, for Independence Day, but they also have other military parades signifying other events. So, is Poland a totalitarian regime that is demanding endless sacrifice of the Polish people for the great Polish ideology, or their great leader? They're not, and they still have military parades annually. Military parades have
Those boys look
nothing.
menacing, though, don't they? Like, they look menacing.
Well, I mean, not in that. Have you seen their dress?
Honestly, man, I would say I think these guys are dripped out in a good way. Like, these guys are dripped out, and they look like they're meaning business too. Like, they look like they mean business. I think it's that olive drab, honestly.
Well, let me go get you like a British military parade. Let me go see if I can find another military parade where they're not using the red uniform, because I just think you have something against that red uniform for some reason. I don't know why. I have a feeling here.
That's
But
the hat. That's the hat, honestly.
how about that one?
That looks like it means business, honestly.
So it's literally just the hat and the red uniform. That's it. You just don't like that.
I think honestly, if I had to like put a name on it, I think it would be the hat. But I'm not saying they should get rid of the hat, though. I like the hat for the like traditional value of it. It's just that you can't expect to be like taking it seriously, like as like Poland's military or like someone else's military while you're wearing the hat. Like, good on them for like keeping the traditions. I think that's like a noble thing. But these guys right here look more menacing if you're going for that like aspect.
Well, honestly, man, I think that uniform looks great. With like with the bearskin hat. Like that looks very nice, actually.
I think it looks like, honestly, if we lived in a world that wasn't as vicious as it was, if the militaries could look like this, which is, in my opinion, they look a little bit more like palatable to like the normal civilians, like a little bit more friendly, I guess you could say, in the military, like the best the military could look in a friendly sense. This would be the way I would want it to look. But when it comes to like a psychological aspect, like, you know, putting fear in your enemy and have them think that the army is much more powerful than it truly is, I think there's some added benefit to having a little bit more of a, like, I guess you could say, a menacing edge to it. Now, because that's a big factor in war, is having a psychological edge. Even boxers know that. If you can get in the mind of the enemy before you even start fighting them, that's a big thing.
Well, you know, those hats have a psychological edge.
I mean, not a menacing edge, like surely
No, no,
not.
they actually do. They actually do, because back when those were implemented back in the 1850s, it was realized back then that if you made a person look taller, then they were more intimidating. So they got those bearskin hats to make them look taller, so that way when they were on the battlefield, back in the day of line battles, they would look taller, and they would be a lot more intimidating, especially in a bayonet charge. And naturally, a mind would think there's this taller dude running at me here who's about to spear me with his bayonet, and it would usually get people, at least at the time, to get scared and turn and run. That was the whole thing of adopting these in the first place back when they were brought in, was that they were intimidating people on the field by making the soldiers wearing them look taller.
I'm not denying that's probably the reason why they did it, but at the same time, though, I think people have gotten a little bit smarter about that kind of thing. Like, I don't think they're really worried about their height, because now they've got, like, you know, machine gun rippers that don't really care about height anymore.
Well, yeah, but that's the tradition behind it. So, like, as far as the traditional side of things go, it is supposed to be more intimidating. Like people may not view it as that now, but you know, that's just not knowing the story or the history behind it. But it's a uniform that stood the test of time for a reason as their ceremonial dress uniform.
Yeah, yeah. And also, let's see here. Andrew Honeycutt had mentioned something else in the chat. He meant a comment about it. Let's see. Where the hell did his super chat go? I was trying to look for it. Hold on a second. Here it is. He said, democracies generally have military parades to commemorate solemn wartime events. Totally. Yeah, honestly, I think Andrew is kind of in line kind of with what I was sort of saying a little bit. The totalitarian regimes, they are more on the menacing side, like glorifying death, I guess you could say. But honestly, though, like even good countries that aren't totalitarian have to have that to an extent, because, like, for example, I don't want to keep hashing the same point over and over, so I won't go back into it again. But there has to be a psychological edge to your military. Like, that's the bottom line. Like, it has to be menacing in a real, like, way.
Let's see here. I'm trying to see if I can get you some other pictures here to show you, because there's actually a lot more British parades that happen than normal. Like these are actually, I believe these are actually Australian soldiers marching through a British street. But still, the uniforms look pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, these don't look bad, honestly. These look pretty good. I mean, I will say, though, the hat, though, it's back to the hat again. Like, that hat right there is not exactly the most, like, you could say. It looks like something that they're going on safari or something.
Okay, so if you're saying that, man, are you going to go to the Marine Corps and, like, join and go to Parris Island and look at a USMC drill sergeant and bust out laughing in your face because they're wearing that little hat? Little hat right there.
No, you can't compare this sharp brimmed hat right here to that one that the British were just wearing. That was like some safari hat. This right here is sharp, man. Look at that. Those edges are sharp.
Dude, this is what Canadian Mounties wear. Like literally the same hat design. Like, it is the same thing. Dude, if you're saying that's like, here's the same hat on a different group of people, you're going to say it's not intimidating. Like, I know you would. Like, you'd be like, this is
doesn't have the same. Look at the top of it. Look at the top. Now go back and look at the Marine hat. Look at that. So much crispier. The Marine, like, drill sergeant hat, the DI hat, it just screams like everything about it is like to perfection. Like, everything about it. Like, honestly, very crisp. The state troopers wear this hat. Like, I don't know if it's just in Alabama, but other state troopers wear that, like, really crisp brim hat right there too. It has a menacing effect to it. I can attest to it.
But it's the same style of hat, almost as the Australian one. Like, no joke. Like, literally just a short hairs off from being the same.
Let me run a poll in the chat, okay? We're gonna run a poll on this one, because this is a contentious topic.
And I see some people saying the Marines hat's totally different. Maybe in the way that it sits once it's made, but me being a historian, that hat is the same brimmed hat as every other. They're literally the exact same, like identical. This hat was a huge thing back at the beginning of the 20th century. The U.S. Army wore this as their actual hat. Like, this was it. Let me go pull it up. U.S. Army 1908 uniform. Let me see here. Let me get a good picture of it. You know, we'll go with the 1912. Maybe the 1912 will have it. Dang. There are no good pictures of this. Hang on. Let's see. World War I, U.S. Army uniform. Without the helmet. Without the Brody helmet. We want to find the one without the Brody helmet. Where is it? Ah, that's close enough. It's the same one. Like, the Marines are using this hat. The Mounties are using that hat. Yeah, it's the same one.
The doughboy has it's angled down like the brim is. It's not crisp.
That's an illustration, though, man. I've seen these in person. They're flat brim, just like the Marine Corps hat. Like, they're literally the same hat.
I don't know, man. Well, look at the poll, though. The numbers speak for themselves. You want to hear the poll results? The question was this: is the Marine Corps drill instructor hat much more intimidating than the British version? 63% said yes, 37% said no. Honestly, I'm 100% on this bandwagon all the way. The Marine Corps DI hat, very crispy. Honestly, the crispiest head covering of any military. Honestly, I can say that hands down. The super intimidating looking. I like it.
Like, it looks all right to me. Like, it's not bad. But the thing is, man, it's like you're trying to make differences where the differences don't exist, man. The Canadian Mountie hat is the same as the drill sergeant hat. They both evolved from that one right there, and it had a flat brim. This illustration doesn't do it justice. It had a flat brim. Like, let me see if I can get it. There are no good freaking pictures of this. Right when I need one, there's none. And this is just annoying the hell out of me. Well, maybe if I type in 1917, because they didn't have helmets by then. Maybe. Yeah, here we go. See? Flat-brimmed hat. Same one. It's literally the same. Literally the same as the drill instructor's one. That's where the Canadian Mountie hat and the drill instructor's hat came from, was this very same hat, because the Marine Corps was wearing this during World War I as well, and then they kept it for the drill instructors.
Yeah, I mean, I think some people in the chat might have a good point. So it's also not just the hat. Obviously, the Marine Corps hat's very crisp looking, but it's also about the person under the hat too. So I would say, honestly, I think they have a point, because if someone's under the hat, honestly, no offense to the fellow there wearing the doughboy hat, but he doesn't have the posture or the presence of the Marines when they were standing there with the hat on. That's also another part of it as well. I think the reputation behind who wears the hat's also probably is equally as important as the hat itself.
Oh, man, honestly, man, so the Russians, according to you. Well, now you're creating a paradox, dude, because the Russians look intimidating at their military parades. Let's go look at them. They look intimidating at their military parades. So if
honestly,
that was
there's something about the Russian military that actually does not look intimidating. I'll be honest with you. On them, I can't place it. On the British, I can place it, like the hat. But here, I really can't. There's just something. I think honestly, it's because I know how inept these forces really are, and it's probably what's making me biased. But these forces just don't intimidate. Also, look at that. Look at that guy wearing that sailor's shirt right there. Look at that. Yeah, this ain't it. This is not it. This does not make me take them seriously.
So now, dude, we moved entirely on from uniforms. Now it's just your feeling for that country. If you just don't like a country, it doesn't matter how intimidating they might end up looking like that. Then they just suck.
Honestly, I might be moving on to feelings versus facts. Honestly,
Facts don't care about your feelings. No, man. Dude, I'm not gonna lie, man. The Chinese are the most non-intimidating, try-hard people that I've ever seen in a military parade, man. I get it's sad. It's sad.
That one guy. Let's look at the difference. Look here, the difference in the headlocks here. That one man in the middle is furious, and the man behind him is smiling. It's what the hell's up with the difference here between these people? That one dude in the middle is deranged.
Man, honestly, all of them look very different from each other. This guy back here looks like he's just having a good laugh.
Honestly, facts.
Straight facts, man. Spitting. But like they're not in, like, if we're talking about like intimidation factor, which still I don't think like makes the mark of a military parade or not. These people have no intimidation factor at all. Like to me, like none.
I don't know. I think the people are right in the chat. I think honestly, it's more about the people under the hat. I think that the hat plays a part. Like that's just a normal beret though they're wearing right there. That's nothing crazy. Like that's just a regular beret in a blue color. But I think it's the person under the hat. It's 50-50.
So what you're saying is that if we have a chiseled person under the hat, then it's intimidating. If they don't really look chiseled, but they're the best fighter that's ever lived, then it's not intimidating.
Yeah, that's basically it. Like they may be good fighters, but the look just doesn't like scream that.
Man, Cressu, like Cressu, man. Like honestly, I can't, like, I think I'm in the minority here. I can't wrap my mind around this kind of logic. Like that's not intimidating to me right there.
Yeah, but now you moved on from people and you moved on to like these duck mobiles or something. That's a whole nother topic.
Yeah, man, but it's just that's not intimidating.
Well, I mean, it just depends, honestly.
Man, I mean, I suppose. But with that, it is time for us to move on to the next one.
All right, and our next super chat goes to Adam McLean, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Adam, for that support. They said LSA has incredible leadership and enormous institutional knowledge.
Hey, and I thank you so much for the support, and I'd have to say so. I'd say so. And so with that, thank you so much once again for support, Adam McLean. I hope that does address that well. And with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Siglid, who puts in a 10. And thank you very much, Siglid, as well, for that support. They said the British Army currently has more horses than tanks.
I know someone's been watching Mark Felton. I know that one. He made that as one of his titles to one of his videos, and it showed up in my recommend. But yeah, that is actually true. Kind of sad when you think about it, because they really don't have a lot of horses, but somehow there's more horses than tanks. They really need to start, upping that military budget, which already is high, but they need to up it a little bit more, just to make the military bigger and cooler, so that way we can argue about whether they should parade them around or not. So with that, I hope that does address that well, and I thank you once again for support and help this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
Also, you're taking my live set in the live chat. What are these soldiers looking at? I'm assuming they're referring to the Chinese ones that we just saw a minute ago. What are they looking at with their head looking sideways while marching forward? I believe it's called the command is eyes right.
Mm-hmm.
That's the command in marching and also drill like that. Is they'll say eyes right, and they're usually looking at I believe the commander or someone of note. So it would probably be like maybe Xi or a government official or someone like that the parade is premised around. So that's what they're looking at, or at least that's what I think. But Enforcer, would you like to weigh in or the next super chat?
He's dead on the nail with that one. He's actually correct. He's right. So with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Margaret Hemsley, who puts in an 8. And thank you very much, Margaret, for that $8 support. And they said, for my super chat, look up the India-Pakistan border ceremony.
Oh, my Lord. I've seen it. I don't want to. Like, it's oh, no. Oh, India-Pakistan border ceremony. Now, these are two countries, and I'm not going to lie. On this one, I'm going to be feelings-based on this one. This is something I could agree with on Matthew here. These are two countries that I'll never look at as intimidating countries because of the ceremony. Now, this is a clip that's on Wikipedia, so I'm assuming... hopefully we can...
I wouldn't do it. I wouldn't do it.
I wouldn't do it. I'm scared. I can't do it. I gotta be able to have a picture. That...
Honestly, like I'm not intimidated by that, obviously, but it's impressive they can get their... Are those dudes?
Those are dudes.
Is that even possible?
I'm not going to try.
Huh.
I'm
no
I hate this
Indian soldier, but I mean, the leg trick is something else.
I might not be from India, but whoa. Looks like someone read the Kama Sutra. Something stupid like that. But man, it's an interesting thing. I don't know if you ever watched this.
Sparta man. He's a Sparta man. Look at that.
I don't know if you ever watched this before, Matthew, but this is probably the biggest clown show of a border crossing that I've ever seen. I'm just going to be honest with y'all here. I know that there's a whole tradition and a history behind this whole border crossing thing that they do, but it is honestly absolutely ridiculous. The whole thing is a pissing contest about really who can who can be the most dramatic with their marching moves between Pakistan, which is in black, and India, which is in tan. It is ridiculous to the lengths they'll go to do this, and they've actually built an entire freaking stadium around this, so that way people from India and Pakistan can crowd in every day and watch them close down this border. It's one of the most
Well,
ridiculous things.
well, have you seen the Indian militaries like military parades? Now I have seen like full clips of that. They have them doing like full up tricks. Like they have them
Yeah.
going on the motorcycles and stuff. They'll have them spinning on like their head and stuff like that on the top of the motorcycle. It's like, what the? It's like this isn't even a military. There they are. They're doing it. They're doing it right there. That was only part of it though. They had some people like actually spinning on their head on top of the motorcycle, like it was like some type of like evil Knievel trick. There they are, right there. They're right there doing it. That I don't even know what the hell is this supposed to do. Like, is it? What are they demonstrating? They have the ability to do like carnival tricks or something. It's like, what? This is not like. Why? Why would you do that?
I don't even know. I don't even know. I have no clue. Ugh. Oh God! Look at that tank camo. Ew.
Ugh. Ooh. Honestly, like India may be like running up their economy like crazy, but they're not going to be running up the military like crazy. I can tell you that.
Believe it or not, man, probably in like 20 years, people will be looking at them like they look at China these days.
I'd have to see that to believe it.
It'll happen. It'll happen, man. It's going to take time. It'll be slow, but it'll happen. But oh my lord, man. Honestly, man, one thing that I do not like about the Indian uniforms is the gaiters that they wear. In their like all of their dress uniforms have those bright white gaiters at the bottom of their legs. I don't like them.
Yeah, it's so unethical to do that to those gators.
What are you doing with those gaiters? Oh, look, there's the spinning ones.
Yeah, yeah, there they are. They're doing it right there.
Yeah.
Oh my God, this is so bad. And the motorcycle tricks were just the beginning. They had some other crazy stuff. I can't really recall. I just remember there was crazy events happening other than this in this parade. I just don't get it. Like, I just really don't get it. Has the Indian military ever really had like a serious fight with anybody like recently?
Dude, they love to go to war with Pakistan, but I don't think that's happened for
Yeah,
like the
that's
past
not really
40 or
serious.
50 years. Oh, that's pretty serious. They're both nuclear armed.
Yeah, I mean, they have nukes, but it's not like India's going up against like China or Russia or something.
No, they haven't been in any major wars like that, but they love to go to war with Pakistan.
Yeah, I mean, they might be able to take Pakistan, honestly. Like, that's one country they might be able to like size up.
Have you seen the Pakistan army?
No.
Here is the Pakistan army.
Honestly, I'll be straight up. They look a little bit better than the Indian army, a little bit.
A little bit, yeah. But here's another picture of them.
Yeah, you can like now just by image alone, you can tell there's a lack of discipline, but just by looking, because they don't appear to be like orderly, like even though they're in formation, they don't look orderly for some reason. Like there's something about it that doesn't look like really sharp.
Yes, yes. Yes, yes, indeed. Oh, God. Oh, is that a paladin? Oh, wow, it's got a dishka on it. Man, that is a mix of worlds. A paladin with a dishka. Dude, honestly, never thought I'd see the day. But, yeah. Dude, have you ever seen the Ugandan military parade? Now, this is a parade to behold. Let me see if I can get a good picture of it. Right there.
Aha, they've got that saber on them too. Honestly, I kind of like the saber, but yeah, I mean, too much flag work going on here. Honestly,
And you thought there wasn't enough red. Now there's too much red. Like there's a load of red right there. Dude, I wish I could find you a video because they couldn't march in step. They were like marching in circles and they couldn't march in step. It was a really interesting thing to watch. But let's see. What uniforms are those? Hi, yes, I'd like to look like the road made of dirt, please, and I like that as the color of my uniform. That is a terrible looking uniform.
honestly though, it looks very like practical though. Like even though it looks like crap, it looks like it would actually work pretty decent in that environment.
It looks like shit. Like just still, like that looks terrible. Do not like that. Do not like that at all. But anyways, it is time for us to move on to some more questions. And so, what do we got, Matthew?
And our next one goes to Andrew Honeycutt once again, who puts in a 5 this time. And thank you, Andrew, for that third support of the night. And he said Napoleonic uniforms were the best because the spear hadn't caught up with the shield. And LLC all the way. An excellent back and forth between Andrew and Matt. Bros be bros.
Hey, thank you so much for the support, and thank you for enjoying our back and forth. The Napoleonic era uniforms are honestly goated. Napoleonic era uniforms. Let me see if I can get y'all some examples. These uniforms, unequivocally goated. Let me see if I can... some of these are costumes. I don't like that. Maybe... Maybe we pulled up each country at a time. Yeah. We'll just do France. We'll just do France. That's a pretty good example. Goated with the sauce.
That's dripping. It's dripping.
Man, let me see here. What else was dripping with the sauce? I think that's a Fusilier. Dripping with the sauce.
Honestly, I would say between the traditional uniforms between France or Britain, I would say I like France's a little bit more, but it's a close call.
Honestly, man, in traditional uniforms, honestly, man, I can't say that there's a favorite. They were all really good. Have you seen traditional Prussian uniforms from this era, which would be the predecessor to Germany?
I think I have. Yeah, I've seen these.
Dude, goated with the sauce.
Yeah, pretty good.
Man, honestly, man, World War I uniforms were pretty goated. Imperial German World War I uniform. Let's see here. We want a good picture. Goated with the sauce.
Honestly, true. Honestly, when it comes to the uniform, obviously you have to take the context of the military out of it. The Germans have good uniforms, and they had good uniforms even when they were fighting against the West. Obviously, the German Nazis were awful. By the way, to make that clear up front. But the uniforms were actually pretty decent looking. They had I think they got a designer. I think it was Hugo Boss, or I don't know if that's a myth or it's actually true or not. Is that a myth?
Yeah, actually, well, they designed it, but the reason why their uniforms looked really good is that high pride was taken in having your uniform tailored to actually fit you. So while they were standard issued, kind of looser, baggier uniforms like everyone else got around the world, usually they would have theirs brought to a private tailor and tailored.
Interesting, but yeah, the uniform situation, they actually that was one army right there that understood the importance of intimidation behind their military to cause a psychological fear. They designed the uniforms to actually look intimidating. They actually did that. They designed it with that in mind, or at least that's what they say. And there's still a carryover. Look at this guy. This is a modern German official, by the way. I can't remember if he's a general or what, but he's a top-ranking German military official. Even this uniform still has the carryover of the intimidation factor behind it. It still looks sharp. It has that sharp appearance to it.
I'm not gonna lie, dude. This guy looks like he had the entire memory of the Battle of Stalingrad implanted in his brain to remember forever. Honestly, man, this guy
right here is freaking when he's doing these briefings and stuff. This dude's freaking intense. With his the way he goes through stuff, and that German accent, that really strong cadence he's got. It honestly kind of brings back memories. Honestly, when he starts talking.
I'm not gonna lie though, that gray color is very good on a uniform though. That's actually pretty decent. Let's see, the Chileans do this too. We've already looked at them though, so not tonight. We've already looked at them though in the past. But I like how you can pull up German army dress uniforms, and most of them are just Waffen SS uniforms from World War II, and they're not even from the present day.
Bro, is that?
Yeah,
that is.
That's
AI. AI's getting out of hand.
AI.
That looked real for a second. I was about to say it looked on first glance, it looked legit.
Oh, here's a British service uniform.
Interesting. That guy looks familiar for some reason. I must have seen him somewhere.
That's why I was wanting to click on it. I was like, he looks familiar. Let's see here. I think that is I'm not even going to say because I know I'm going to get that one incorrect. Which branch of service that is? I think that's still the army. I think that's still an army dress uniform. But I'm going to be mistaken here. Also, do have to say that King Charles has a pretty striking black uniform. Look at that.
Yeah, that's nice. I like that, what they call it, sash or whatever across there. It looks pretty good.
Yeah, the blue sash. The blue sash looks good. I like the blue sash. Adds a little bit of color. But let's see. Oh yeah, that's I think that's a RAF uniform right there. The RAF has a really nice color. It's like a gray blue.
Yeah, I like that one. That looks clean.
Yeah, that one's pretty clean. Oh look, hey, look, that's Prince Andrew back there. What's he not doing in a military uniform for? What's going on with that? Dude, now we're banned from Britain. But anyways,
He went for the island look.
I'm just an island boy. Like,
I don't know if you want to say that in the context of him, but you know.
well, he was like it's just like whether it's good or not, he was. By the way, man, I think that's King George I think that's King George the Sixth, which I'd say actually looks kind of like you a little bit.
Yeah,
A little bit,
maybe.
like honestly, it doesn't look that far off. I mean,
Yeah, I
look, man,
mean, not super wide or anything, I guess you could say, but I don't know.
take
Maybe
it
I
as a
don't know.
compliment. You look like royalty. You look like royalty.
Well, I mean, just because royalty doesn't mean anything, really. I mean, honestly.
You know what? We haven't looked at Japanese dress uniforms, have we, Matthew? Japanese dress uniforms. Yeah, let's take a gander. Let's see here.
I
Okay,
think you say military dress
yeah, I
uniform.
think I need to clarify that. I forgot that Japan's like that. So, yes, here we are.
Uh,
These
I'll be
aren't that
honest with you, I'm
good.
shocked. Like the Japanese kind of dropped the ball on the uniform. I've never actually noticed their like military uniform, but that's not really it.
Yeah, that's not really it. That's not really doing it.
Nah, that ain't it.
That ain't it. Yeah. Honestly, man, that almost looks like a Confederate rank, like from the Confederate Army, like on his like shoulder sleeve right there. Like, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Doesn't it? Let me go. Confederate unit. Let me go look at that because that looks. I'm swearing. It looks like a Confederate rank Confederate uniform. There we go. We need to go find the officers' uniforms because that's where you would see the ranks on the sleeves like that. Um, like that right there. I'm not lying, dude. I'm not lying. I think they took like some inspiration from the Confederates because that looks a lot like the same sort of like a ranking structure that they have on the sleeves.
Yeah, I'll be honest with you though, those Confederate uniforms were trash. Like this, just that the awful color, just trash.
Like the German gray is good. Whatever the hell this was, I know what this was actually, man. You know where the Confederates got a lot of their inspiration for their uniforms?
From where?
Austria-Hungary.
Austria-Hungary. Yeah, I can kind of see that a little bit, but these just look like junk. Like these look terrible.
Yeah, you know what? I need to show you Austro-Hungarian uniforms because, like, to let you know where the inspiration came from. Uniform. Let's go with well, let's go with any period. I'm sure. Well, no, I'll have to put it in 1860s, and then we need to find the ones in gray. So it's kind of like these. That's where they got the inspiration from.
Yeah, I think they got a little off the inspiration path when they like finished up the Confederate one.
Man, they said, we want to look like it's Austrian, but also red. And then they went with this. Oh,
Man,
man.
the South got lowered again.
Oh, man. Oh, dude. It's, man, I'm not going to lie, man. I don't know what it is with the Confederate gray color, but it's tough. It's really, really tough.
That's honestly probably my least favorite like era of history like I've ever had to study in my life. It was the Civil War era. I just can't stand that era for some reason. Like I don't want to hear about it. I have no interest in it. And it's like I just don't even want to like think about it or talk about it. There's something really just like bad to me about that period of history. Outside of the fact that we're obviously fighting with one another in the United States, just on like a history level, like reading about it, I just don't like even reading about it.
I don't know what it was, but the Civil War was like the most uninterest. Like I'm not gonna lie, like just being honest, it was the most like uninteresting feeling part of American history. Like I don't know what it was. It was just like it almost seemed like it was the apocalypse in the United States. Honestly, that's what it felt like when you read about it. Like it's almost like this is like the apocalypse. It's like the end times almost for the United States, and it went through it for like 4 straight years. But yeah, I don't like the uniforms that much now. Matthew, there's one uniform, though, I think you'll really be regaled at. It's the Louisiana Zouaves. I think you're going to hate them.
Yeah.
That's rough.
Yeah.
That is rough.
That's honestly, it looks like something else. I think everybody's gonna know already what it kind of looks like.
I don't know what you're thinking.
Yeah, I'm just gonna have to leave it.
But yeah, that's not a good uniform right there. But one that is good is the West Point uniform. Have you ever seen the West Point uniform, Matthew?
Yes, I have. I've seen that. It's very sharp. I like the U.S. West Point uniform.
Very clean. It's a very clean uniform.
Yes, I like that. I like how large the rank is on the sleeves. It's freaking oversized as hell.
They make sure that you can never get it wrong. Like you can never get it
Yes.
wrong because you'll see it.
And they
from
will
a mile
haze you
away.
for getting it wrong too. You better not get it wrong.
Okay, everyone, let's go stand in the middle of the mess hall with loads of shards of glass around. It's like, and you're gonna have to
Oh.
squat over it, and if you fall, you fall. Okay, let's go. It's like, yeah, that's great.
You're expected when you arrive at West Point, you're expected to have memorized or this little small guidebook they've given you. And if any senior not senior, but if any higher level rank cadet walks up and questions the scrub or whatever they call them a squid or something like that. I don't know. But they walk up and they quiz them. And if they get it wrong, they just haze the hell out of the people.
Man, honestly, man, it kind of feels like law school. It kind of feels like law school, man. But man, actually, there was someone in my class, crazily enough, that actually did go to West Point and apparently got kicked out or something. Honestly, man, one of the most you didn't expect them to be from West Point, with how unimpressive they were, just to be frank. And they were also assholes. They were an asshole to everyone. So, I was like, what a letdown. Anyways, with that, we are on to the next one.
And our next one goes to Ed, who puts in a 5. And thank you very much, Ed, for that support. He said, Irish Ed here, and I want one of those helmets that Colonel Klink had on his desk. And you two give me the news, and then make me laugh.
And I thank you so much for the support. And I think what you're talking about is a Pickelhaube helmet. Look at that. Intimidation factor 9,000. You got a freaking spike in your head. It goes hard. Honestly, this is the goofiest helmet ever made, honestly, in my opinion. Also, these things were made of leather, so they actually broke pretty easy. In the earlier part of their time being produced, these top spike-looking pieces are actually made out of hollow bronze, so you really can't hit much anything with it without crumpling up that little spike instantaneously. So, really, it's just kind of goofy. Actually, this was supposed to be the dress uniform helmet, or really the service helmet of the British Army, but then the Russians stole it and started using it before the British. So then the British just dropped it and never adopted it, and then the Germans adopted it and really took off with it. And so that was what was known as pretty much the German helmet for World War I, was the Pickelhaube. But I don't like them. They're iconic, but I don't like them. Anyways, I do thank you for the support, Irish Ed, and thank you so much for the kind words to support and helping this channel to keep on running. And with that, we are on to the next one.
All right, and this question is going to go to Angry Viper, who says, what do you guys think of Chinese troops helping Russia?
Oh, well, it's a volunteer basis thing. It's kind of like the Foreign Legion in Ukraine, same thing, kind of. They're getting approval, though, to leave the country by the Chinese government, but with only 155 of them being in the support of the war, it's a non-existent number, not even anything to make an issue over. So with that, I hope that does address it well. Thank you once again for support, and we are on to the next one.
And this one goes to Canada's Sovereign, who said, if China invades Taiwan, would the U.S. evacuate any Taiwanese official?
Probably not. We probably wouldn't have a chance to do that because they would probably be under a complete naval and air blockade by then. So probably not. And so with that, we are on to the third to last question of the night.
And this one goes to the old buzzard, who said, did you get any information on the word that the major airbase in Afghanistan has been returned to the U.S. by the Taliban?
There were some reports about that. It turns out that those reports were unbased at this point and not true. So right now, that base is still under complete control of the Taliban for now, until we get any clarification on that. Because the story went out, and then it was immediately confirmed by Afghans on the ground there was no American presence at that airbase. So with that, we are on to the second to last question of the night.
All right, and this one goes to Dalton LMAO, who says, do y'all think that the U.S. will defend Taiwan?
I think we should, and I hope that we will, but you never know with this administration. It's kind of a wild card. One day they could say they would, and the next day they don't. So I would hope that we would. But I hope that addresses that somewhat well, and with that, we are on to the final question of the night. And so, who is the last person to throw in the lucky last question of the night?
And this one goes to Canada is Sovereign once again, who says, have you guys viewed any videos of the Russian state media lately, and what are they trying to say on their side?
I don't even watch it anymore. It's honestly just brain rot at this point, what they say. They'll just say something like, we have to nuke America, and it's like that every day, so I don't watch them much anymore to even know. So I don't largely have to declare ignorance on that. But with that, we have reached the end of tonight's stream, and I've got to say, what a whopper of a stream it was. We had 11.5 thousand people here at the peak, and 84,000 people have watched the stream before it ended. We are entirely honored and appreciative to have all of y'all here tonight. We hope y'all did enjoy, and we will see you all tomorrow at 10 p.m. Eastern Time to cover the next 24 hours of news from around the world. And so with that, good night, good luck, take care, stay safe, Slava Ukraini, and long live the Leaf Spring Army. The Leaf Spring Army will never die.
And with that, folks, thank you all for joining us once again tonight. And to, like the enforcer said, 84,000 people that joined us by the end. This is one of our larger streams that we've had in a minute, and quite crazy. So many people stuck around to hear the talk about the uniforms, the helmets, the intimidation, the bear hats, the whole 9 yards. So thank you all for joining us once again tonight, and be sure to join us again tomorrow night at 10 p.m. Eastern for the next nightly War News stream, where we'll talk about more military parades at depth. But of course, we will have a short war video tomorrow. If there is enough news to cover tomorrow, I think tomorrow might be my day. So if you're going to be seeing a short war video, it'll probably be put out by me. So be sure to tune into that as well. But of course, Slava Ukraine, Herom Slava, get some rest, and good night.